Chapter 123. The cultivators began to move. The first to move were about a dozen cultivators standing in a corner. They steered a large flying ship and led the selected 50 to 60 martial cultivators into it, settling them down. The leading cultivator loudly announced, "Flowing Cloud Sex Song Yang Zi has brought his disciples to the semester examination." He solemnly bowed towards the direction of the Sky Palace. The airship slowly moved, taking the Flowing Clouds Sex people to the palace in the sky. Following that, an old man stood up and loudly announced, "Thousand Sword Sex Hushan Fei has brought his disciples to the semester examination." This was the sect master of one of the biggest sects in the world, Thousand Sword Sect. He also solemnly bowed towards the direction of the Sky Palace. After that, a giant sword suddenly floated above the Thousand Swords Sect's cultivators. They all jumped on it, riding the giant sword towards the palace in the sky. In just a few moments, the entire square became very lively. The sects all took out their flying tools, taking the martial artists, Chi training and foundation establishment realm loose cultivators who can't fly yet towards the Sky Palace. Dark Sea Sex Liyuan Xiu has brought his disciples to the semester examination. White Mountain Sex by Jiang Hai has brought his disciples to the semester examination. Yao Guang Sex Li Qing Yao has brought his disciples to the semester examination. Gu Qing Shan turned to look. Sure enough, she saw a familiar face among the Yao Guang Sex people. Ling Tianxing nodded and smiled, sending his voice. "I'm the first trials enforcer, let's talk more when we get up there." Yao Guang Sex disciples flew up to the Sky Palace in a blinding light. "So there are so many strange flying tools in the cultivation world. How fun!" Xiu watched as the sects flew up one by one, intrigued. Gu Qingshan smiled, saying, "Their flying tools all represent their sex specialties." Xiu seriously thought for a bit, then realized. No wonder, Thousand Sword Sex is a giant sword, Yao Guang Sex is a light from the sea, and Spirit Beast Sex is a 10,000-year-old giant turtle, but some sects still use flying ships. "It's probably because they don't have the money or energy to invest in it," she said slowly. "Not bad, Xiu is really smart," Gu Qingshan praised, and said, "This is a good opportunity to show off your sex charm, so that the disciples who are waiting to be selected can take a closer look, and also move the hearts of those genius disciples." At this time, more and more sects were flying in the sky. There were all sorts of flying vehicles, causing even Gu Qingshan to feel a little dizzy. After a while, someone suddenly said, "Heaven's Limit Sex Han Tianming has brought his disciples here for the semester examination." Heaven's Limit Sect? Gu Qingshan looked over and saw Ning Yuechan immediately. This wasn't the front line, so she wasn't wearing armor or a mask today. She was dressed in a rainbow-colored feather dress, and stood out from the crowd like a white lotus emerging from the water. As if sensing Gu Qingshan's gaze, Ning Yuechan tilted her head and looked over with her limpid eyes. Then focused on him. Gu Qingshan smiled. Ning Yuechan also smiled. "Why don't I see your second brother?" She squinted her eyes and sent her voice. "He's not feeling well." "That's fine, then let's go up and talk." "Alright," Gu Qingshan replied. Ning Yuechan's gaze finally fell on Gu Qingshan's waist, lingering on the earth sword for a bit, then pouted in dissatisfaction. Such a lively expression appearing on the cold and beautiful Heaven's Limit Saintess' face caused many male cultivators who were silently watching her to fall even deeper into the trap of love. Gu Qingshan, on the other hand, was soaked in cold sweat, silently regretting not hiding his sword. It's over, we won't even be able to run now," Gu Qingshan muttered in a low voice. Heaven's Limit Sect was well versed in formations, divination, as well as powerful elemental spells as their foundation. Because of that, their flying vessel was a giant 5-elemental Bagua Yin-Yang wheel. As the Bagua Yin-Yang wheel carried the people of Heaven's Limit Sect to the sky, Gu Qingshan finally sighed in relief. Following that, The other sects also took out their special vessels and flew towards the heavenly palace. Gradually, there weren't many sects left. Suddenly, a voice came. "May I ask how I should address you, brother?" As Gu Qingshan looked back, she saw a young man about the same age as her, wearing a loose blue Taoist robe, standing behind her. This man had a dignified appearance, his manners were flawless, his tone was gentle and polite, his attitude was humble and sincere, his cultivation seemed to be at foundation establishment late stage. For Gu Qingshan to be able to reach foundation establishment realm at the age of 18 to 19 was already quite impressive. This man was about the same age as her, but was 2 small realms higher. He was also a dragon among men. When this man looked at Gu Qingshan, it was as if he was looking at an ant. His eyes carried a kind of deep scrutiny. Although he hid it very well, he couldn't hide it from a veteran like Gu Qingshan. Because of this pair of eyes, Gu Qingshan didn't like this man. If this man came up to talk to her, he must have some other purpose, and not just to make friends. Sure enough, before Gu Qingshan could say her name, the man in front of her spoke again. "Heaven's Limit Saintess has always been paying attention to your sword, so I'm also a bit curious, but I wonder if I could take a look at it?" These words were spoken with a very polite tone, but the content was extremely rude. Not only did he spy on Ningyuechan, but now he was openly asking to take a look at Gu Qingshan's sword. For a sword cultivator, the sword is their life, a companion that goes through thick and thin with them, their belief. How could they take it out for others to play with? Not to mention, there are thousands of spells in the world. There are always a few that can look through a weapon to see the user's weakness. Even more powerful ones can use a cultivator's weapon to cast filthy sorcery on them. There are even some swords that already have their own spirit, forming a sword spirit, but were taken away by people with ulterior motives, used secret techniques to harm and destroy the sword spirit. Personal weapons can't be borrowed. This is common knowledge among cultivators, something that any cultivator should know. But this man was openly asking to take a look at her sword. Gu Qingshan smiled. "Sorry, I won't be lending it." The man was stunned, then his expression became strange. "Do you know who I am?" he asked. "How would I know if you didn't tell me?" Gu Qingshan replied. The man shook his head and sighed. "You don't even have this much observation skills, and you still dare to come to the semester examination?" "I'm already here," Gu Qingshan told him the truth. "I'll say it one last time, show me your sword." Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, then replied, "It's not like I can't." The man nodded. His expression became a bit better. "Then show me your weapon, let me have a look at it, what do you think?" Gu Qingshan sincerely asked. The man's expression became grim, saying, "It's been a long time since someone dared to talk to me like that. You really won't lend it to me?" Behind him, a few dozen cultivators wearing the same blue Taoist robes stepped forward, glaring at Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan ignored them and smiled. "I won't lend it to you." The fact that she's asking for his sword again and again made his suppressed killing intent boil. He looked around. There are too many people here. If a fight breaks out, it won't be easy to protect Xiao. Gu Qingshan's hand was still on the sword, only pulling it back after a while. The man also looked around, seeing that all the sect masters were looking at them. He stared at Gu Qingshan and said, "You'll regret this." Saying so, he left. After he left, Xiao called out, "Senior brother." Gu Qingshan looked at her timid appearance, smiled and said, "It's fine, can't I show a cultivator's weapon to others?" Xiao asked. "Of course not, other than Shifu and your senior brother, no one else can," Gu Qingshan answered very seriously. Xiao nodded, not really understanding. As the man returned to his sect, he suddenly shouted, "Blue Cloud Temple, Li Chang'an, bringing my disciples to the semester examination." All the voices went silent. Even the sects that were about to fly up stopped, not daring to act rudely in front of this voice. Blue Cloud Temple is one of the 3 saints, Xianyuan Tianzuan's sect. Li Chang'an is Xianyuan Tianzuan's direct disciple. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Li Chang'an smiled at Gu Qingshan. He sent his voice through inner sight. The sword, can you give it to me now? His expression was calm, his demeanor gentle, but there was a hint of mockery in his eyes, as if he was waiting to see Gu Qingshan's panicked expression. But he was disappointed. Gu Qingshan only smiled at him, nodded at him, opened her mouth and silently mouthed something. Chapter 125. Such a simple statement, anyone who's paying attention to this place can see it. Quite a few of them laughed out loud. Li Chang'an was so angry that he almost couldn't stop himself from killing them. But in this kind of situation, he can't do that in front of everyone. Li Chang'an controlled his emotions, tapped his inventory bag, and took out a talisman. Quick, he shouted and activated the talisman. The talisman burned itself out, turning into a vermilion bird in the air. A divine beast! Someone exclaimed. Everyone turned to look. Even Spirit Beast sect doesn't have such a divine beast. The vermilion bird became spirited, spread its wings and flew to the sky. Wherever it ran, it turned into a path of burning flames. The sky was covered in flames. Let's go, Li Chang'an ordered. The people of Green Cloud Temple followed the path to heaven that was paved with flames and flew towards the palace in the sky. But miraculously, the flames didn't hurt them at all. As Li Chang'an flew, he even looked down to provoke Gu Qingshan. He also opened his mouth and silently said something. Just you wait, Gu Qingshan ignored it and casually praised. What a unique way to get to the sky, senior brother, you're not angry at him? Xiao Xiao curiously asked. Gu Qingshan smiled and took out some snack. He said, Come eat, junior sister Xiao Xiao. Xiao Xiao was bored standing there, but as soon as she saw the snacks, her eyes lit up. When did senior brother buy them? Why didn't I know? When you were looking at the spirit beasts, I bought them on the way. Yummy, senior brother is the best, of course. Blue Cloud sect used a way to leave a deep impression on everyone to get to the Sky Palace. Following that, a loud Buddhist chant was heard. Amitabha, one of the three saints, the great monk of Sorrow's sect, Spirit Leaf Temple also came. The person in charge of the annual examinations was a young monk with his eyes closed. He was about 17 or 18 years old, about the same age as Gu Qingshan. As he chanted the name of Buddha, golden lotuses rose from the ground and carried the people of Spirit Leaf Temple toward the heavenly palace. Wow! Golden lotus bursting from the earth. This is a Buddhist magic. What an eye-opener! Xiao Xiao shouted excitedly as she munched on her snacks. She suddenly thought of a problem. It was a very serious problem. Senior brother. We don't even know how to fly. How are we supposed to go up? Gu Qingshan looked around. There were not many people left on the mountain top. Don't worry. Gu Qingshan smiled. Master cares more about this kind of thing than you and I do. He tapped his inventory bag and took out a communication talisman. By Hua sect, Gu Qingshan raised her voice. These 3 words seemed to have a magical power. As soon as they were uttered, even the cultivators above the heavenly palace looked over. Gu Qingshan, bring our disciples to the semester examination. Saying so, he solemnly bowed to the heavenly palace. Infused with spirit energy, the communication talisman turned into a streak of flame and flew away. Everyone waited for a few moments, but nothing happened. Li Chang'an's expression changed. His mind was quickly moving. I didn't think this brat was from Bai Hua sect. No wonder he dared to go against me. But so what if he's from Bai Hua sect? I'm also a disciple of a saint. If I need to step on you, I'll step on you. Ning Yuechan, thinking of this beautiful saintess, Li Chang'an's eyes became sharp. Perhaps stepping on this young man will be better than stepping on anyone else. That's what he thought and quickly did. A few moments later, a light chuckle came from the heavenly palace. The cultivators all turned to see that it was Blue Cloud's past Li Chang'an shook his head and sighed, then said, Bai Hua sect only sent 2 people. If they can't come up, then go back. Hearing that, everyone's mind was moved. What does that mean? Blue clouds pass and Bai Hua sect aren't on good terms? Bai Hua sect shouldn't have any problems in this kind of situation. But the 100 Flowers Fairy is a very temperamental person, who knows what she's thinking. Li Chang'an dared to say that, but the cultivators of the other sects didn't. All the cultivators kept their mouths shut, using their eyes or inner sight to communicate, afraid that they'd get into big trouble if they spoke too much. Suddenly, a 7-colored cloud appeared in the sky. This cloud's color was luxurious and beautiful, but also carried a natural sense of dignity, enough to make anyone who looks at it feel dizzy. The 7-colored cloud quickly flew over, landed on the top of the mountain, and turned into a mature and bewitching woman. Gu Qingshan pulled Xiao Xiao's hand and hurriedly bowed, greeting her. "Greetings, Saintess," the woman smiled and said. "No need to be so polite, I'm here to help you under the fairy's orders." Saying so, she turned around and turned into a peacock with a long and beautiful tail. Only male peacocks in the mortal world have beautiful tail feathers, but how could a normal peacock compare to a peacock beast saint? She's a saint beast. Every feather on her body contains both spirituality and beauty. If you look at her for a long time, it'll even help you sense the laws of heaven and earth. "Thank you for your trouble, I can't thank you enough." Gu Qingshan bowed again. Noticing his respect, the peacock beast saint lightly nodded. "Let us go." She lightly flapped her wings, bringing Gu Qingshan and Xiao Xiao onto her back. The peacock beast saint carried the two of them, flapped her wings and flew up to the heavenly palace. Her beautiful figure was like a 7-colored cloud, but even more beautiful and gentle than a cloud, even more unforgettable. All the cultivators held their breaths, staring at this without blinking. Sainted Realm is the pinnacle of cultivation, the symbol of Tao, the symbol of sainthood. It's always held the highest position of respect. In the history of humanity, no one has ever been able to have a Sainted Realm cultivator as their mount. What the 100 Flower sect had done this time would most likely be the topic of conversation for the next few decades, or even centuries for the next few decades. Gu Qingshan and Xiao Xiao landed on the square in front of the heavenly palace. The peacock beast saint nodded to them, turned into a colorful cloud and flew away. Xiao Xiao looked around, only to see a group of cultivators staring blankly at her on her left, as well as a group of cultivators staring blankly at her on her right. She whispered to Gu Qingshan, "Didn't Shifu go a bit overboard?" Gu Qingshan also whispered back, "Shifu likes this kind of effect." Xiao Xiao thought for a bit, then nodded in agreement. After a while, everyone finally calmed down from their shock and started to talk again. Li Chang'an's expression was a bit ugly, feeling a bit annoyed, so he turned around, out of sight, out of mind. About 10 minutes later, the semester examination finally began. The first round was very simple. All you need to do is show off your strongest abilities, then the 7 sect masters of the cultivation world will judge. As long as they think you're a promising talent, you'll pass. For this semester's examination, all the sects open their doors wide. As long as they can pass, they'll all pass. The first round passed very quickly. By the time it was over, most of the cultivators and low-leveled cultivators had gotten the right to join a sect. Quite a few of them were crying tears of joy. Gu Qingshan was also a bit emotional. In the past life, he came here as a lone cultivator, but because he only knew one sword style, he couldn't even pass the first round. At the time, he was so poor that even that one sword style was exchanged with his life at the front lines. After the first round, it was time for the second round. The second round was a test for the sect. There were specialized cultivators to test and examine the lone cultivators. Only those who pass can enter the next round. Being able to enter the next round means you've gotten the right to become an inner disciple of the sect. Those who are eliminated can only continue to train in the outer sect. There were 4 martial eminences in charge of testing martial cultivators, 3 elementalists to test spell cultivators, 3 sword cultivators to test sword cultivators, blade cultivators as well as other weapon-wielding cultivators, and 2 sect elders to test God's chosen skills. Xiao Xiao didn't care about anything else, only stared at the God's chosen skill selection process with great interest. "Senior brother, are we really going to sit here and do nothing?" she asked a bit uneasily. Chapter 126. While they were talking, they saw a person slowly walking towards them from not too far away, like a moon surrounded by stars. Wherever she went, all the sword-wielding cultivators silently hid their swords behind their backs. The sword cultivators who were beaten before hid their swords especially quickly, causing the female cultivators who followed her to cover their mouths while giggling. But she ignored all of this, as if she's already used to it. She walked next to Gu Qingshan and Xiao Xiao. "How are you doing at Bai Hua sect?" she asked. Gu Qingshan looked at her. Ning Yuechan was smiling, her eyes as gentle as water. Just by standing there, she's already able to make countless cultivators fall head over heels for her. From afar, Li Chong turned around, gritting his teeth as he watched this. His eyes became cold. Right now, he's no different from any other male cultivator. Gu Qingshan answered. "Shifu and senior brothers are very good to me. Junior sister is also very good to me." He pulled Xiao Xiao out and told Ning Yuechan, "My little junior sister, Xiao Xiao, quickly greet the saintess." Ning Yuechan's eyes were gentle, stroking Xiao Xiao's head and said, "You're making me sound like a stranger, just call me big sister." Xiao Xiao looked at third brother, then at Ning Yuechan and timidly said, "Big sister." Ning Yuechan was very happy, holding Xiao Xiao's hand, took out a small bag and put it in Xiao Xiao's hand. "This is a greeting gift, little sister, take it." "A spirit beast bag? What's inside?" Gu Qingshan asked. Ning Yuechan answered. "A crimson-necked white crane," Xiao Xiao lightly called out, hugging Ning Yuechan. "Thank you, big sister." She was not a pretentious person to begin with. Now that she had revealed her true feelings, Ning Yuechan liked it even more. Ning Yuechan took out a small and exquisite storage bag, and placed it in Xiao Xiao's hand. "I made it myself. You can keep it," she said. "It's beautiful." Xiao Xiao held the storage bag and sniffed it. She smiled and said, "It even smells nice." Holding Xiao Xiao's hand, Ning Yuechan stepped aside and introduced the 5 beautiful female cultivators behind her to Gu Qingshan. Lu Qingyan, Wang Ningxiang, Dong Shui, Zhao Dan, and Zhang Tsuiwei are all my good friends. The junior sisters stepped forward and bowed to Gu Qingshan. "Greetings, senior brother." The female cultivator's eyes lit up as they looked at Gu Qingshan. The sacred maiden had never taken the initiative to talk to a male cultivator like this, let alone bring them here. The man in front of her was the only one who enjoyed this honor. What was so good about him? "No, I need to take a good look." That was what the female cultivators were thinking. Gu Qingshan smiled and clasped her fist, speaking. "Greetings, junior sisters. This humble one is Gu Qingshan, ranked 3rd in Bai Hua sect." Hearing that, the female cultivators silently nodded. Bai Hua sect is a saint's sect, a good match for our senior sister. Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, then said, "Then, junior sisters, please tell me your spirit roots." Although the female cultivators were a bit confused, this was a normal thing to do, so they all spoke at once. Hearing that, Gu Qingshan tapped her inventory bag and took out 5 jade tags. Ning Yuechan was surprised. "What are you doing?" Gu Qingshan replied. "My junior sister already accepted your greeting gift as her senior brother. I can't just not show my gratitude to her." Ning Yuechan smiled and asked, "What do you want to give them?" Gu Qingshan answered, 5 elemental secret arts." As soon as he said that, the cultivators who were silently paying attention to this place all went into action. That's a 5 elemental secret art, a technique that can be passed down from generation to generation in a sect. Even if you take it to the auction house, you can easily sell it for a few 100,000 or even 1,000,000 spirit stones. He's giving it to them just like that? Just like that as a greeting gift? Bai Hua sect, my god, just what kind of sect is this? From afar, Heaven's Limit Sect's sect master was originally silent, but now he was smiling. His mood suddenly became much better. The great cultivators of the other sects exchanged glances and silently sighed. That's right, it's our sect's fault for not having a peerless figure like Ning Yuechan. The female cultivators trembled as they received the jade tags. One of them even screamed in excitement. That's too precious, you're scaring them, Ning Yuechan scolded her. Of course not, they're just normal secret arts. It's fine as long as everyone is happy, Gu Qingshan replied. Thank you, senior brother, the 5 female cultivators all bowed to him. You're welcome, we're all on the same side, Gu Qingshan replied. On the same side? Hearing that, Ning Yuechan blushed a bit, then glanced at the earth sword and couldn't help but ask, Are you training your sword right now? As soon as she asked that, the gloomy young cultivators immediately became overjoyed. A feeling of schadenfreude grew like a weed in the hearts of all the cultivators here. Beat him up! 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 You brat, you deserve to show off, you deserve to show off, you deserve to give away your secret arts. Now you're speechless, aren't you? Saintess, go ahead and beat this brat up, just like how you usually beat other sword cultivators, beat him until he kneels down and begs for mercy. Gu Qingshan also felt a bit tense, but thinking that a slash to the head is still a slash to the head, so she just said it out loud. I can't help it, the situation right now is quite grim, I have to grow up and become stronger faster. If I don't have enough strength, when I go out to slay demons in the future, who knows when I'll die. I have to become stronger, this is something I have no other choice. Ning Yuechan listened, but didn't say anything, the smile on her face slowly faded. But Xiao noticed that the atmosphere wasn't quite right, so she cut in. Big sis, Shifu is very strict with third brother, she even sparred with him last night, practicing all the way until late at night. Ning Yuechan's expression changed. Xiao is only 8 years old, the age where a child's words carry no harm, so she wouldn't lie about this. A saint personally practicing swordsmanship with him, how important is that, and how much of an honor it is. As everyone knows, the 100 Flowers Fairy's eyes are always on top of her head, sometimes she doesn't even bother to fight with her own hands, always asking someone else to do it for her, saying that she doesn't want to dirty her hands. But the 100 Flowers Fairy can spar with him, practicing all the way until late at night. How many people in the world can spar with a saint? Even Ning Yuechan couldn't help but feel envious at this moment. As she thought that, there's no need to mention the envy and jealousy of the others. Heaven's Limit Sect's sect master, who was silently listening from afar, for the first time ever turned her head to look at Gu Qingshan. Ning Yuechan thought for a bit, thought again, then asked with difficulty. The saint is forcing you to walk the path of a sword cultivator? Gu Qingshan suddenly had a flash of inspiration, sighed, and said helplessly, I've always wanted to practice the blade, but Shifu forced me to practice swordsmanship. No matter how much I begged, she wouldn't even give me a chance to hold a blade. Ning Yuechan thought about Xiao's words and muttered, Practicing swordsmanship really isn't a good thing, but the saint's eyes. She shook her head, then looked at Gu Qingshan with sympathy. Ha, you've suffered a lot, the hell. There's actually such a thing? The male cultivators here all screamed in their minds, almost going crazy. Saintess, he's a liar, you can't fall for it. The male cultivators all shouted in their minds. At this crucial moment Xiao pulled Ning Yuechan aside and happily said, It's not like that, big sis, Shifu secretly told me that third brother has a bright future ahead of him, dong. A one-hit kill. Hearing that, no matter how hesitant Ning Yuechan was, she finally understood. She smiled and said, A bright future ahead? Very well, I'll be waiting to see how far you can go. Ha, it's not that exaggerated. Gu Qingshan waved her hand dismissively. Seeing Ning Yuechan's gentle smile, he finally calmed down, feeling a bit enlightened. In times of crisis, it's always better to have a teammate to help you. Chapter 128. Focus on swordsmanship from now on? Ning Yuechan asked. Gu Qingshan's expression was still a bit hesitantly asked. I feel like in between swordsmanship training, I can also occasionally train my blade skills. You can't, Ning Yuechan tried to persuade her. No matter if it's the blade or swordsmanship, the most important thing is to focus on one thing, you can't be distracted. Then fine, Gu Qingshan reluctantly agreed. Then I'll focus on my swordsmanship. That's right, Ning Yuechan was pleased. All the male cultivators here lowered their heads, speechless. Saintess, your usual style isn't like this. Clang, clang, clang. A loud and clear bell rang out. The third round of the semester examination was about to begin. Ning Yuechan regretfully said, I have to go, I'm in charge of the third round. All right. Gu Qingshan nodded, took out a communication talisman and gave it to her. This was his communication talisman. Ning Yuechan silently received it, took out her own talisman, lowered her head and gave it to Gu Qingshan. All the female cultivators covered their mouths, but their eyes were smiling. Ning Yuechan was a bit shy, so she tilted her head and casually said, Junior sisters, let's go. Senior brother, we'll be going first. See you again? See you again. See you, big sis. Little sister, listen to your senior brother. If you have time, come to Heaven's Limit sect to play. All right, I'll be there. After saying goodbye, Ning Yuechan brought the happy junior sisters back to Heaven's Limit sect. How was the man? A female cultivator quietly asked. The junior sisters all held their secret art jade tags and answered, full marks. Following that, the third round of the semester examination began. At this point of the semester examination, the elders and sect masters of the big sects finally started to get serious. The elite disciples who were leading the group also showed an expression of interest. The first round of the annual examinations was very simple. It was just a preliminary look at the newcomers. The second round was to pass the examination and observe their temperament and talents to confirm that they were people who walked the path of cultivation. This was something that ought to be done. Otherwise, if it was a disciple that was cowardly like a mouse or an ordinary person that wasn't willing to cultivate at all, then even if they had good cultivation aptitude, they wouldn't be accepted. It wasn't like this hadn't happened before in history. Some people had good aptitude, but they were too timid. They were pushed all the way to a high realm by the huge resources of the sect. In the end, when this person faced a fiendish demon with his golden core realm cultivation, he was still scared shitless. Even among his fellow disciples, he didn't dare to spar with them. This was equivalent to the sect nurturing a piece of trash for nothing. People with such a temperament must be eliminated as soon as possible. After 2 rounds, the third round was the official qualification screening. The aptitude of all cultivators would be fully displayed through this round. At this stage, the remaining newcomers were all particularly talented martial artists, or lone cultivators who had cultivated to the chi refinement or foundation building realms on their own. There weren't any normal people left in this round. Normal people were all eliminated in the first 2 rounds, so they had to start from the outer sect one step at a time, solidifying their cultivation foundation, sharpening their temperament and understanding the general knowledge of the cultivation world. This was a necessary process. A bronze plate of the same height was carried by 2 cultivators onto the square platform. Ning Yuechan lightly leapt onto the platform, standing next to the bronze plate. Just by standing there, she looked like a heavenly fairy descending from the heavens. All the male cultivators' gazes were glued to her, unable to move away. Ning Yuechan began to host the third round of the semester examination. She announced, "Semester examinations third round begin. Newcomers who pass the second round, come up one by one and place your hand on the bronze plate. I'll add one more thing, disciples who joined earlier, if they want to come up, please also come up for the third round." As soon as she finished, there was no commotion, no one protested. The big shots of the sects exchanged glances, nodding in satisfaction. In the past, at this time, there would always be a lot of noise. A portion of the newcomers didn't want to touch the bronze plate, afraid of revealing their elemental veins or abilities. But they didn't know that their petty tricks weren't even accepted by the official Dao sects, so they weren't even noticed by the official cultivators. This time, it was Ning Yuechan's turn to host the third round. None of the hot-tempered, cold, or arrogant male newcomers stood up to make a fuss. Perhaps they wanted to put on a good show in front of a beauty like Ning Yuechan? Ning Yuechan is the saintess of Heaven's Limit sect, the next sect master of Heaven's Limit sect. Being able to gain her favor, or even just a little bit of attention, is something that makes anyone happy. I think she'll be the one to host the third round next year, an elder of the sect suggested. That's a good idea, seconded, agreed, the big shots discussed among themselves. The first newcomer came up, nervously put his hand on the bronze plate. A red light shot out from the bronze plate, circled around the newcomer once, then returned to the plate. Very good, you have a fire elemental vein, but it's not awakened yet. Work hard on your cultivation from now on, go down, Ning Yuechan said. Behind her, a group of enforcers appeared, each holding a jade tag in their hand, recording the results of the test. The newcomer happily bowed, silently glanced at Ning Yuechan for a bit longer before going down. The second newcomer came up and put his hand on the bronze plate. The bronze plate suddenly spun, turning into a bell that trapped the newcomer inside. Ning Yuechan patted the bronze plate and put it away. She told the newcomer, who was still in shock, "You probably have a trapping-type God's chosen skill. I hope you'll work hard on your cultivation and awaken it soon." When the newcomer heard this, he was overjoyed. He bowed and walked down the stage, 1 foot high and 1 foot low. The third newcomer came up, but the bronze plate didn't move at all. The newcomer was a bit disappointed. Ning Yuechan smiled and encouraged him. "It's okay, even without the elemental and God's chosen, you can still enter the sect to cultivate, your future won't necessarily be bad." Hearing that, the newcomer seemed to have regained his life. He stared blankly at Ning Yuechan, then clasped his fist. "Thank you, Fairy, for your teachings." This scene became an eternal memory for him. Throughout his life, this cultivator has gone through countless hardships and setbacks, but never once did he forget that on the day of the semester examination, a peerless beauty once encouraged him like that. As time went on, the third round of the semester examination was already half done. Many cultivators who were recruited by the sect before the exams saw Ning Yuechan standing on the stage. A few of them couldn't help but jump up to touch the bronze plate. One of the cultivators placed his hand on the bronze disc, causing the silhouettes of countless weapons to appear on the disc. Finally, the silhouette of a long sword was formed. The sword cultivators below the stage all had expressions of interest. Perhaps from now on, the saintess won't reject sword cultivators anymore? If that's the case, then that brat did a good deed. But as Ning Yuechan looked at the sword image, she coldly scoffed. "Trained in the sword? You're a sword cultivator from now on, alright, get down." Not only was the man scared, he was pushed down by Ning Yuechan's spirit pressure with a wave of her hand. In the crowd, quite a few newcomers with weapons retracted their heads. The sword cultivators silently sighed, once again feeling despair. Xiao Xiao was quite amused, stood on her tiptoes, trying to get a good look. Gu Qing-shan rubbed Xiao Xiao's head, asking caringly, "Are you still nervous?" Xiao Xiao looked up, happily answering, "Not at all, it's very interesting, but there are too many people blocking my view. I can't see the stage." Gu Qing-shan thought for a bit, then picked up Xiao Xiao and put her on his shoulder. "What about now?" he asked. "Whoa, I can see it clearly, thank you, senior brother." Xiao Xiao was very happy. All the cultivators around them rolled their eyes. "Are you two here to watch a show or to participate in the semester examination?" At this time, on the stage, another girl put her hand on the bronze plate. Then the bronze plate burst into flames, split open from the middle and fell to the ground. The girl was so scared that she started to cry, saying, "It wasn't me, I didn't break it." Ning Yuechan didn't know whether to laugh or cry, lightly patted the bronze plate and it returned to its original state. You have a fire elemental root that hasn't awakened yet, as well as a split-type God's chosen skill that hasn't been awakened yet. This kind of talent is quite rare. I hope you can work hard and awaken it soon," she calmly said. It was now that the girl realized that she had both an elemental root and a God's chosen skill, so her tears turned into a smile. As soon as the girl came down, a few elders of the sect stood up and surrounded her. Another newcomer came up and put his hand on the bronze plate. A cultivator's figure appeared from the plate, quickly performed a set of martial arts. "You'll probably be able to use your fists and palm-type martial thaumaturgy in the future. You should focus on your martial arts," Ningyuechan nodded. The man happily went down. "There are quite a few good seedlings here," Gu Qingshan muttered. Xiao Xiao was still sitting on his shoulder, suddenly asked, "Senior brother, are we going up?" "No," Gu Qingshan answered. "Ah, but I'm curious," Gu Qingshan asked. "What are you curious about?" Xiao Xiao answered, "I'm curious about what will happen if I touch the plate. A dark gray shadow will fly out and circle around you." Gu Qingshan continued, "It doesn't necessarily have to be a dark gray shadow, it depends on how strong your elemental root is. The stronger it is, the more obvious the phenomenon will be," he added. "Our sect also has something like this. If you're really curious, you can ask second brother to find one for you to play with when we get back." Xiao Xiao was satisfied, then suddenly asked, "If Shifu touches the plate, what will happen?" Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, then answered, "The plate will probably change for 3 days and 3 nights without any repetition." Xiao Xiao couldn't help but chuckle. While they were talking, a man around 20 years old came up. "HM? Fellow Dao Seeker, what's the matter?" Gu Qingshan evaluated him and asked. The man knelt down in front of Gu Qingshan, scaring the two of them. He said, "This humble one has always been interested in Bai Hua sect. Please accept me as your disciple. This humble one will be eternally grateful." Gu Qingshan and Xiao Xiao exchanged glances. Xiao Xiao hesitantly asked, "Senior brother?" Gu Qingshan looked at the man and said, "If you want to join Bai Hua sect, then go to Bai Hua Immortal Country and take the Bai Hua list. If you can, the saint will naturally judge whether or not you're qualified to join the sect," the man answered. "This humble one isn't asking the saint to accept me as a disciple." Gu Qingshan was surprised. "Then why are you kneeling here?" The man's eyes flashed with a sly glint as he loudly said, "Please accept me as your disciple." Gu Qingshan almost spat out some blood. "Fellow Dao Seeker, I'm not even as old as you are. This isn't appropriate," he said. "Of course it's appropriate, of course it's appropriate. I know that you're talented and wise. You'll definitely dominate the world in the future, becoming a human saint. Please accept me as your disciple." The man's attitude was resolute. As the newcomers watched, they slowly realized what was going on. Chapter 131. This is one of the 3 saints of the world, 100 Flowers Fairy's disciple. I heard that Bai Hua sect doesn't have a lot of people, so everyone is treated extremely well. Not to mention, after joining the sect, there's basically no one to compete for cultivation resources. There are countless secret scriptures and scriptures for you to see, and you might even be taught by the saint himself. The crowd started to become restless. Gu Qingshan was stunned for a few seconds, then sternly spoke. "Without the saint's order, my junior sister and I cannot accept disciples. Otherwise, if the saint gets angry, we'll be fine with a bit of punishment, but you might not even be able to keep your life, so you should leave." The man was about to say something else, but Gu Qingshan had already looked around and raised her voice. "I'll say it out loud. My junior sister and I are the disciples of Bai Hua sect this time. Other than us, Bai Hua sect does not intend to accept disciples. If you really want to join Bai Hua sect, then please try the Bai Hua list first." Seeing how determined he was, the newcomers around him finally gave up. Hearing that, the man unwillingly stood up and left, mumbling to himself as he walked. "I kneeled for nothing, brat." Li Chang and stood afar and laughed, muttering to himself, "Bai Hua sect doesn't accept disciples, but if I can defeat these 2 newcomers, I'm sure many big sects will look up to me." His voice wasn't loud, but everyone here was a cultivator, so it wasn't hard for them to hear what he said. Many of them were a bit surprised, looking at Gu Qingshan and Xiao. At this point, the third round was over. Ning Yuechan walked down from the platform. Following her was the final round of the semester examination. The 4 sect masters walked up, bowed to the heavenly palace, and placed their hands on the 4 pillars of the platform. They infused their spirit energy into the pillars. Not too long after, the 4 pillars lit up, as did the entire platform. 4 beams of golden light rose from the 4 platforms and flew straight into the dark sky, shooting into the endless depths of the sky. One of the sect masters solemnly declared, "The final round, chosen of divinity, begins. According to the ancient records, the competition between humans would attract the attention of the gods. If there was a newcomer that the gods took a liking to, the gods would bestow a gift to help the cultivator cultivate. Now, the gods were long gone, but the human race had kept this tradition going for thousands of years. The wide platform was divided into 4 parts, and each part was a separate arena. A rookie jumped onto the stage and said loudly, 'I'm Zhang Kong. Who wants to challenge me?' 'I'll do it.' Another rookie jumped onto the stage. The referee looked at the 2 of them and found that they were both in the qi refining realm. He nodded and warned, 'This is just a spar, don't be too heavy.' 'Yes.' Both of them answered. 'Begin.' The 2 of them began to fight. Not long after, one person was defeated, and the other won. In the other 3 arenas, cultivators also began to fight. 'Senior brother, what should we do?' Xiao asked. 'Let's just watch,' replied Gu Qingshan. 'Wouldn't Shifu be angry if we come here and do nothing?' Xiao worriedly asked. Gu Qingshan smiled and said, 'Did you forget Shifu's words?' 'I remember, come safely and return safely,' Xiao answered. Gu Qingshan also said, 'That's right, we just need to show our faces here to show that Baihua Sect's people are here, then watch the others fight to broaden our horizons. That's enough.' He rubbed Xiao's head, saying, 'Not to mention, our Xiao is only 8 years old, fighting and killing can wait for a few more years.' Xiao smiled and relaxed. She watched the battles on the stage. Not too long after, she became engrossed. Gu Qingshan was also glancing at them from time to time. After a while, he occasionally turned to look at Ning Yuechan, causing her to blush a bit. It couldn't be helped, this girl was too easy on the eyes. Gu Qingshan also instinctively wanted to look at her. Taking advantage of the heated battles on the stage, Ning Yuechan finally found a chance to glare at Gu Qingshan without being noticed. Gu Qingshan didn't dare to tease her anymore. There were several realms between the 2 of them. If Ning Yuechan really wanted to go all out, a single glare from her would be enough to make Gu Qingshan bleed half of her blood. Finally, the 3rd round of the semester examination picked out the top 20 seeded contestants. All the sect masters looked at the new contestants on the stage, praised them, and quickly selected them in their minds. To be able to make it this far, cultivation talent, personal effort, and fighting talent were all outstanding. The only thing that mattered was whether or not they fit their sect's scripture. Very well, all of your victories are very high. We will now pick out the top 3 from among you to complete this time's chosen of divinity, one of the sect masters said. Now, you may begin the challenge. The so-called challenge is when you want to challenge someone, shout out their name, and they will have to accept, otherwise they'll be automatically eliminated. The 20 contestants exchanged glances, quickly looking around at the others, trying to find their opponent. This was also a test of one's observation and judgment. Suddenly, someone spoke up. "I challenge Baihua Sect's Gu Qingshan." Everyone was shocked. Everyone turned to look at Gu Qingshan and Xiao. "Senior brother," Xiao called out. "It's fine," Gu Qingshan smiled. He could tell that this person was the one who knelt down just now. Has he gone crazy from wanting to be famous? Leng Tianxing was one of the judges, so he stopped them first. Gu Qingshan didn't make it to the top 20, not within the scope of the challenge, the man replied. According to the Chosen of Divinity rules, the top 20 can challenge anyone they want, no one can stay out of it. That's true, but almost no one has ever done that before. Because anyone who can't even make it to the top 20 has already fallen. If a strong person goes to challenge the weak, everyone will look down on you. Not to mention, there are some sect disciples like Bai Hua sect who, due to various reasons, only came to witness the semester examination and didn't intend to go on stage. Ning Yuechan spoke up. Bai Hua sect has been spectating the entire time, they haven't gone on stage, so they're not within the scope of the challenge. Hearing two great cultivators say that, the man was a bit hesitant. Li Chang'an suddenly stood up, laughing. Very good, very brave of you, daring to challenge a saint's disciple, very good, a cultivator should be like this, knowing when to face difficulties. This time, no matter if you win or lose, our Blue Cloud sect will accept you, no matter if you win or lose. That means they have to fight. The man understood right away, and so did the cultivators around him. If they fight, they'll be accepted into Blue Cloud sect. Blue Cloud sect is also a saint's disciple, they have a lot of people, no one dares to mess with them when they travel the world, they're very influential in the cultivation world. On one side is Bai Hua sect who doesn't want to accept people, on the other side is Blue Cloud's sect who wants to accept people. Comparing the two, Blue Cloud sect is the true path to heaven. Out of the 20 people, more than half of them started to shout. Why can't I challenge him? He's also here for the semester examination, why does he have the privilege of not accepting challenges? We respect the saints, but he's not a saint. If cultivators don't exchange pointers, what kind of cultivators are they? The great cultivators all looked at each other, feeling a bit troubled. The elite cultivators of the sects, aside from Ning Yuechan and Ling Tianxing, were all silent. It's because Gu Qingshan was in the limelight too much. Not only was he brought to the heavenly palace by the beast saint, but also Ning Yuechan went to speak up for him, making everyone jealous. Making a fool of such a person and making him look bad was also a delightful thing. Seeing that they were getting more and more excited, Gu Qingshan stood up, clasped his fist and bowed, saying, "Everyone, please listen to my explanation," he sincerely said. "There's a misunderstanding about this." The leader glared at him and asked, "What misunderstanding?" Gu Qingshan answered, "It's not that I don't want to fight, it's that before we left, the saint ordered us not to fight." The leader was waiting for him to speak, ready to refute him as soon as he finished speaking. But when Gu Qingshan said that, he was stunned for a while, unable to think of anything to refute. The saint ordered. The saint doesn't allow me to fight. That's why I won't fight. In front of the ring, the top 20 cultivators of the semester examination exchanged glances. He's ordered by his master not to fight. How are we supposed to refute that? How are we supposed to provoke him? Do we really have to offend the saint before even joining the sect? That's not worth it. Everyone was speechless. Seeing that, Xiao suddenly whispered, "Senior brother, that's strange, what is it?" Gu Qingshan also asked in a whisper. "You said it so shamelessly, but why do I feel like you're so handsome?" Li Chang'an cleared his throat and said, "Bai Hua Saint ordered us to fight like that." "That's right," Gu Qingshan answered. Li Chang'an silently cursed, but couldn't say anything else. The only thing he can do right now is to let him go. Are we really going to let him go? This is the best chance to slap his face in front of everyone. Seeing how he's refusing to go up no matter what, he's probably not confident enough to lose to his opponent. But since the other side even brought up the saint, he can't do anything but let him go. Li Chang'an sneaked a glance at Ning Yuechan, only to see her softly looking at Gu Qingshan, the corner of her mouth slightly lifted, showing a helpless smile. He silently clenched his teeth, feeling even more unwilling. "So you really don't want to go up?" Li Chang'an looked at Gu Qingshan, then at Xiao, then gently spoke. "You even brought a child, The saint ordered you to do so because she's afraid you'll lose the child. Alright, why does Bai Hua sect have a child? Whose child is it? These words were said very casually, as if there's nothing wrong with it. But if you think about it for a bit, you'll find that what he's saying is too dirty, too dirty. There aren't many people in Bai Hua sect, so asking whose child is it will lead to countless guesses. Li Chang'an, what are you talking about? Ning Yuechan angrily shouted. I'm only asking about this child's background. I want to know which sect her parents are from. What's wrong with that? Li Chang'an quickly changed the topic back. He's already made it clear that he doesn't have any ill intentions, he's only asking about their background. Asking about their background is a very normal thing. How many cultivators get asked about their background when they enter the sect? But what he said before has already entered everyone's mind, everyone will think about it, the matter will slowly ferment, the rumors will slowly spread far and wide. Xiao didn't say anything. Her father is already gone. She also had to go through a lot of hardship to slowly recover. These words are so vicious that they've pierced her heart. Gu Qingshan's mouth became a thin line. He put Xiao down, seeing that the little girl's eyes were already red, teardrops flowing down her cheeks, stopping at her chin. Gu Qingshan felt pain in his heart, but still smiled and said, Xiao, listen to senior brother. Senior brother is too relaxed this time, Now that senior brother knows he was wrong, I apologize to you, senior brother will immediately fix it, The little girl wiped her tears, appearing a bit surprised. Only to see Gu Qingshan carrying her, quickly walking next to Ning Yuechan. Help me look after Xiao. As soon as he said so, he didn't wait for Ning Yuechan to say anything and flew up to the square platform. The earth sword appeared from the void of space, held in Gu Qingshan's hand. Holding the sword, he swept it across the top 20 cultivators of the semester examination, saying, If you're so unconvinced, then come up here, I'll beat you into submission, and you, he looked at Li Chang'an, you think the way you talk is very smart, don't you? Intense killing intent exuded from Gu Qingshan, but his voice was still as calm as water. Chapter 133. Everyone went silent. They didn't think that the gentle young man would dare to say such words in front of so many people. Arrogant and conceited, the person who started the fight said loudly. He walked step by step towards the ring, saying, Wait until you're beaten by my martial thaumaturgy, then you'll know that there's always someone better than you out there. With every step he took, his body became bigger, layers of martial thaumaturgy flowed around his body. So he's already awakened martial thaumaturgy even before he joined a sect. No wonder he dared to stand up and challenge Gu Qingshan. When this martial cultivator reached the ring, he's already turned into a 4-person tall giant. His muscles were as hard as rock. His skin had also turned dark, standing below the stage. He was actually taller than Gu Qingshan on the stage by 2 whole bodies. That's Guardian King Kong, a cultivator who knows his stuff exclaimed. Many elders of the sects who were proficient in martial arts stared at him with a look of interest. Among the martial thaumaturgy, there are some thaumaturgy that can be continuously upgraded. They're very eye-catching. Because these basic thaumaturgy, as the martial cultivator increases in rank, they'll also become stronger and stronger, eventually becoming a powerful thaumaturgy. Guardian King Kong's final form will become Angry Guardian King Kong, a very powerful thaumaturgy for martial cultivators. After the martial thaumaturgy becomes Angry Guardian King Kong, if he can enter a Buddhist sect and further polish his thaumaturgy, he might be able to master the Buddhist sect's divine skill, Unbreakable Diamond. But when people looked at Spirit Leaf Temple, they saw the monks all had their heads lowered, not paying attention to this person. Buddhist sect is particular about character and fate. It seems like this person is not even worthy of their attention. Having such a thaumaturgy, yet Spirit Leaf Temple looks down on him. No wonder he's in such a hurry to show off. The giant looked down at Gu Qingshan, revealing a mocking expression. A weakling like you, I can kill 3 of you with one slap." He spoke with a booming voice. Gu Qingshan calmly looked at him, not saying a word. Seeing that he didn't say anything, the giant's aura rose even more. "Humph, weakling, there's always a winner and loser in a battle, even the saints have nothing to say." The giant leapt straight towards Gu Qingshan. His mountain-like figure blocked out the sun, casting a shadow over the arena. As he leaped up, Gu Qingshan also leaped up to meet him. Gu Qingshan had already swung the earth sword towards the giant. That's right, smash. This sword was very slow, but no matter how the giant dodged, its body still went straight towards the sword. He couldn't dodge it. The giant suddenly understood. "Then die." The giant roared and raised his fist, preparing to fight the opponent head-on. Bang boom! The 2 of them met, and one of them turned into an afterimage as he was slapped down from midair. The sky was filled with a mist of blood, and a deep pit had appeared on the ground below the arena. Everyone looked over and saw that Gu Qingshan was still standing on the stage, but the giant was nowhere to be seen. The enforcer cultivators immediately rushed into the deep pit. After a while, hysterical cries came from the pit. "Ouch, ouch, 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 ouch." Hearing this voice, the surrounding cultivators could not help but release their divine sense to scan the deep pit. Many of them shivered at the same time. "What a pile of mud!" someone muttered. "His bones are all broken, even with full treatment, it'll take a few years for him to recover," someone else whispered. "For the next few years, the pain he's been through isn't any less than going to hell." Everyone's expressions changed as they looked at Gu Qingshan. Among the sect masters, one of them mused, "It's a bit like Kai Shan's style, but even stronger. What kind of sword style is that?" With the saint's guidance, the 1106 sword styles were fully mastered by Gu Qingshan, combined into one, not to mention the earth sword's 6,000 tons of force. This sect master naturally couldn't tell what kind of sword style it was. "This kind of sword style isn't recorded in our sect's hidden sword pavilion. If it wasn't self-created, then it must have been secretly taught by the saint," the Thousand Swords sect elder said. The big shots were a bit interested, so they continued to watch. Again, Gu Qingshan flicked the blood off her sword and coldly said. Among the top 20 cultivators, a skinny male cultivator stepped out. "Don't look down on me, you're only strong with your sword, slow speed is your fatal weakness, you can't hit me at all." Saying so, he twisted his body and was already standing on the ring in the next second. "My movement technique is the perfect counter to your heavy sword." He proudly looked at Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan didn't even look at him, only looked down at the ring and continued, "All of you come at me together, it'll save me time. You!" The skinny man was furious. His feet touched the ground and charged straight at Gu Qingshan. As soon as he moved, he saw the expressions of the people below the arena change. What's wrong?" While the skinny man was confused, he heard someone shouting, "Don't move!" This voice belonged to one of the sect's elders who selected him for the semester examination. He really did treat him well, he was touched, so he originally wanted to join that sect. But now that the situation has changed, a big sect like Blue Cloud's sect is right in front of him, easily within reach. He has no choice but to give up on that sect. The skinny cultivator heard it, but pretended not to hear it. His body turned into a gust of wind as he charged towards Gu Qingshan. In the next second, he saw a body fly out from his line of sight. "That seems to be my body." Thinking so, he suddenly felt a sharp pain, then fell into an endless darkness, no longer feeling anything. From everyone else's point of view, they only saw the skinny man flying forward. The entire time his hands, arms, legs, and feet were all separated from his body, then his head also flew out. His limbs and head were scattered all over the ground, but his body was still flying forward for about 10 feet before finally landing on the ground, spitting out blood. On the ring, Gu Qingshan held the earth sword and lightly twisted it. "If you want to die, then there's nothing I can do about it," he said. countless faintly discernible threads retracted from all directions, went back into the earth's sword and disappeared. Sword chi threads? At that age? The Thousand Swords Sect's elder was shocked. This is a high level of sword chi control. Only when one's control over their sword chi reaches the microscopic level would they be able to turn the sword chi into threads and use them as trap. Gu Qingshan pointed her sword at the remaining 18 cultivators. Come, 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 all of you, I said I'll beat you into submission, so I'll beat you into submission. Seeing the state of the two people in front of them, the other cultivators all felt a chill down their spines. They gritted their teeth, exchanged glances, and understood each other's intentions. All at once. Kill him, or we'll all die. A dozen figures leapt up, landing on the ring. That's right, saves me the trouble. Gu Qingshan raised the earth sword, pointing at the people in the air. The sword stabbed forward, filled with intense killing intent, making the spectators' hearts palpitate. But strangely, his sword wasn't aimed at the people who were coming at him. His sword was pointed at the sky above them. The world became silent. Something inside the earth sword seemed to have woken up, letting out a satisfied whisper. Suddenly, dong, 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 like a giant from the age of old beating his war drum. A blinding sword phantom exploded from the tip of the earth sword, shooting forward with a deafening explosion. A secret art, one of the spectators exclaimed. The sect elders exchanged looks, one of them nodded. That's right, water flow severance. It's been so many years since I've seen such a secret art, with an intense sword-infused wind. The dozen people who were coming at him all disappeared. They were only grazed by the sword-infused wind, then their consciousness was scattered by the explosion of the sword phantoms, falling out of the heavenly palace. Several enforcer cultivators flew out, using various flying treasures to catch the unconscious people. The dozen cultivators were lined up in a row, their eyes closed, unconscious. Gu Qingshan looked at the sect masters who had already stood up and said, "These people are still useful to humanity, so I've spared their lives." He then looked at the cultivators below the ring, saying, "From now on, if anyone dares to offend my Baihua sect, I will kill them." His tone was resolute and calm. Quite a few cultivators recalled what happened just now and quickly came to the correct conclusion. This young man really did move his sword away, otherwise, the power of that strike just now would have been more than enough to kill all of them. Gu Qingshan put his sword away, looking at the remaining 3 cultivators below the ring. "Ah, you're still here?" he asked in confusion. "Didn't you want to fight me?" The 3 of them knelt down, kowtowing. I was wrong, please don't hold it against me, please don't hold it against me." As a cultivator, kowtowing to someone else, their Tao heart is already broken. Gu Qingshan didn't look at them anymore, took a deep breath and looked at Li Chang'an. "Come up here," Gu Qingshan smiled. Li Chang'an also laughed, saying, "You think I'm afraid of you? You have a secret art, do you think I don't?" He walked up the ring step by step, saying, "It's time for the new generation of disciples of the saint to decide who's stronger." A spear appeared in his hand. Gu Qingshan was stunned and didn't say anything. Li Chang'an raised his spear, swung it a bit, then stopped. "Please enlighten me," he said. Seeing how prideful he was, this word most likely meant to enlighten the other party. Without waiting for Gu Qingshan to say anything, the spear already moved. From static to movement, almost in the blink of an eye, it turned into a lightning-fast killing strike. The air around him let out a sharp screeching noise. Li Chang'an's entire body and the spear became one, like an unstoppable sharp arrow. This strike is a secret of spear arts. It won't stop until it hits its target. No one could have expected Li Chang'an's mind to be so deep. Not only did he take the initiative to attack, he even used a killing strike. If Gu Qingshan wasn't prepared enough, or didn't respond properly, she would have been pierced through. The spear went through Gu Qingshan's body. One hit. Got it. Li Chang'an was about to laugh, but noticed that the feeling from the spear tip wasn't right. When he looked again, that person only left an afterimage in the air. His real body was nowhere to be seen. Not good. Li Chang'an dragged his spear and turned around. A chill came from above. Without hesitation, he aimed his spear at the air, wanting to knock the other party down. The two weapons clashed in the air, creating an ear-splitting sound. Li Chang'an shouted, "I've caught you, die!" The spear whistled through the air, leaving behind an afterimage. Chapter 135. As soon as the spear missed, Li Chang'an's expression darkened, knowing it's not good. A sharp pain came from his back. Li Chang'an angrily shouted, turned around and stabbed again. There's no one behind him. He wiped his back, it's all blood. But where is that brat? His inner sight clearly told him that the brat is behind him again, only a sword's length away from him. Gotcha, he shouted. But before he could turn around again, he felt a sharp pain on his back. Another sword strike. Li Chang'an was like a mad tiger, swinging his spear again, performing the 49 strikes of the holy demon-slaying spear without any gaps. This is Xianyuan Tianzuan's personal spear technique. Li Chang'an took 2 years to master it. Originally he was going to use it today to make a name for himself. But halfway through, he got another sword strike on his back. "Aya, come out if you're so good." Li Chang'an was about to go crazy. But the crowd couldn't even say a word. Because it's too shocking, there's no words to describe this battle. From Li Chang'an's second strike, Gu Qingshan had already leapt past him, standing behind him. Whenever Li Chang'an wanted to do something, any technique, Gu Qingshan would always move at the same time, always staying behind him. When Li Chang'an turns, he turns right next to Li Chang'an. When Li Chang'an rushes forward, he rushes forward. When Li Chang'an stops, he also stops. The distance between the two of them did not change, and neither did their positions. He's like a shadow, sticking close to him. This created such a laughable and terrifying scene. Li Chang'an can't see Gu Qingshan, but Gu Qingshan is always behind him. As soon as she finds a chance, she'll stab him in the back. To be able to do this, it requires an unparalleled ability to predict a battle. There can't be a single mistake. 1 second wrong, one wrong step, one wrong move, none of them can achieve this result. He knows he's behind him, but he can't see him, not to mention he's constantly getting wounded. Li Chang'an is about to go crazy. "Come out. Get out here right now." He spun his spear around a few times. When he stopped to catch his breath, he was stabbed again. "Aya!" Li Chang'an couldn't help but stab behind him again. There was no sound, no answer, no parry, no counterattack, nothing. It was as if the other party didn't exist, but whenever he stopped, he would stab him with his sword. Under the intense pain, Li Chang'an jumped up and once again entered into a crazy spear art performance. He stopped to catch his breath and was hit by a sword. He swung his spear again. He stopped to catch his breath and was hit by another sword. As the cultivators watched, they felt a chill rising from the soles of their feet to their bodies. Their entire backs were covered in a cold sweat. The Heaven's Limit sect master sighed. No wonder Bai Hua Saint doesn't easily accept disciples. The supreme headmaster of the 10,000 Swords sect had been silent all this time. Only now did he spit out 4 words: "The younger generation will surpass the older." On the square platform, Gu Qingshan is still sticking close to Li Chang'an, silently following his movements. No matter what Li Chang'an does, no matter what technique he uses, he can't see Gu Qingshan. The wounds on his back are getting worse. Li Chang'an is already covered in blood. Li Chang'an has fallen into a nightmare that he can't escape from. Even his Tao heart is becoming unstable. He could only grit his teeth and bite the bullet. "You're quite skilled. Why don't we stop here?" There's still no sound behind him. A bone-piercing pain, another sword strike. This is a demon in human skin. Li Chang'an couldn't take it anymore and shouted, "If you want to die, then don't blame me." He tapped his inventory bag and took out a talisman. This is Xianyuan Tianzuan's Divine Phoenix Talisman. The Divine Phoenix Talisman isn't something the current Gu Qing Shan can deal with. The fact that Li Chang'an took out this talisman means he doesn't care about face or winning anymore. Using a saint's divine talisman on the Chosen of Divinity stage is an insult to the semester examination, breaking the rules that have been in place for thousands of years. Doing this will ruin his reputation, but Li Chang'an doesn't care about reputation anymore. Li Chang'an's Dantian spirit energy moved, causing the talisman to light up. On top of the talisman, a faintly discernible ball of light began to spread. The Divine Phoenix is about to manifest. Li Chang'an's teeth are about to bleed from clenching. As soon as the Divine Phoenix appears, I'll take your life. While he was thinking, Li Chang'an felt himself being hit by a sword again. This time, it wasn't too severe, but his entire body went numb. He couldn't even move his pinky finger. Pain came from all over his body. His muscles couldn't help but spasm. His body suddenly lost control. He was stunned for a split second. Oh no, this is lightning! Li Chang'an's mind screamed, but his Dantian doesn't listen to him. Not even a bit of spirit energy can be forced out. The Divine Phoenix Talisman that needs spirit energy to be used instantly lost its power. As soon as the Divine Phoenix's head popped out, it screeched unwillingly and went back into the talisman. 1 second later, Li Chang'an once again felt his body's existence. A lot of things can happen in 1 second. The Divine Phoenix Talisman in Li Chang'an's hand was taken away, as well as a sword that pierced through his back and out his chest. The sword pierced through his spine, slanting outwards, coming out an inch below his heart. The position is extremely dangerous. The attack was vicious. Blood flowed down the blade of the sword, dripping down. Li Chang'an was held in place by the sword, not daring to move. If he tried to move and hurt his spine, he'll be paralyzed. Even if it doesn't hurt his spine, the sword is still right below his heart. If he's careless and hurts his heart, he'll die on the spot. At this moment, what identity, what woman, what fame, what cultivation realm, whether he wins or loses, all of it becomes insignificant and unimportant. Facing death, Li Chang'an finally understood what's most important. "Don't kill me, please don't kill me," he begged. "Ah? You're begging me to let you go?" The demon's voice came from behind him. Yes, I was wrong, please let me go." Gu Qingshan pointed her sword at him, saying, "You're being rude, first apologize to our Xiao Xiao." "Xiao Xiao? Who's Xiao Xiao?" Li Chang'an instinctively looked below the ring, looking for the little girl. The little girl's face was still tear-stained, her eyes wide open, looking at him. "Xiao Xiao, I'm sorry, I was wrong, I shouldn't have said something like that, you're a big man, please forgive me." Li Chang'an endured the pain in his body, barely able to speak. "Not sincere," Gu Qingshan said. The sword in his hand slightly moved. Li Chang'an's head was covered in cold sweat from the pain, shouting. "Let's start again, your tone must be gentle, your attitude must be sincere," Gu Qingshan said. "Xiao Xiao. I was wrong, please forgive me," Li Chang'an said. "Senior brother." Xiao Xiao looked at Gu Qingshan. "Xiao Xiao," Gu Qingshan encouraged. "This bastard is being strung by senior brother's sword, whatever Xiao Xiao wants to do to him, senior brother will do to him, listen to your heart, as long as you feel satisfied, even if senior brother cuts him in half, I won't say anything." Gu Qingshan reached her hand out, took the inventory bag from Li Chang'an's waist, and threw it to Xiao Xiao. "Consider this a bit of mental compensation, what do you think?" Gu Qingshan asked Li Chang'an. "Yes, compensation. Compensation for Xiao Xiao." Li Chang'an's smile was even uglier than crying. All of his assets are inside the inventory bag. Xiao Xiao received the inventory bag, hesitated a bit, then threw it back on the ring. "What is it?" "No need to be polite with him," Gu Qingshan said. "His things are so bad," Xiao Xiao said, embarrassed. Gu Qingshan was surprised. "Xiao Xiao is 100 flowers fairy's flesh and blood, Everything she eats and uses are the best in the entire cultivation world. Li Chang'an's things, she really doesn't like them. That's not good. Gu Qingshan was a bit troubled. I can't even compensate him, how about I kill him? He said, killing people, as if it was eating, not a single bit of emotion could be felt. Madman, this is a murderous madman, Li Chang'an finally realized, regretting messing with such a person. This is... One of the headmasters hesitated, wanting to say something. You want to get involved in the matter between Bai Hua sect and Blue Cloud's Pass. Gu Qingshan was surprised. The headmaster immediately backed off. All the big shots shut their mouth. If it was the great monk of sorrow's disciple who got into a conflict with Xianyuan Tianzuan's disciple, they would at least try to talk some sense into it. But this is Hundred Flowers Fairy's disciple. Hundred Flowers Fairy is a very temperamental person. You're not a saint, yet you still dared to piss her off. Tomorrow you'll have to prepare for your funeral. Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, then threw the Divine Phoenix talisman to Xiao Xiao. This can be used as a vermilion bird to play with. It's not a bad thing. If you get bored of it, you can even exchange it for spirit stones, Gu Qingshan said. Xiao Xiao has seen this talisman before, so she's a bit interested. Hearing her senior brother say that, she took the talisman in her hand. She's finally a bit happier. Seeing that, Gu Qingshan patted Li Chang'an's shoulder and said, I, personally, don't have anything against you. Yes, yes, Li Chang'an nodded, silently sighing that he's finally alive today. A wise man doesn't fight when the odds are against him. I'll save my life for now. Later on, I'll think of another way to kill this guy. Otherwise I won't be able to raise my head for the rest of my life. One day, I'll find a chance to kill him. Li Chang'an silently thought that, but didn't show any emotion on his face. Then Gu Qingshan's tone changed. But if I spare your life today, from now on, everyone will dare to use rumors to slander our Bai Hua sect. If this goes on, our sect's reputation will become a big problem. Right now, the only thing I can do is to kill you as a warning to others. The situation suddenly changed. Li Chang'an instinctively felt something was wrong, shouting, I was wrong, I shouldn't have slandered Bai Hua sect, I swear. Gu Qingshan ignored him and continued, that's why. You should just die. As soon as you die, everyone will learn from this. They'll know what the consequences of slandering Bai Hua sect are, Li Chang'an shouted. Wait! My Shifu is Xianyuan. I don't care who your Shifu is, Gu Qingshan calmly replied. He drew his sword and swung. The corpse fell forward, a head was severed from his neck. Faintly, but there was still an expression on his face. Li Chang'an's head rolled a few times, landing at a corner of the stage. His face was full of fear. His mouth was still open, as if he wanted to say something to Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan looked straight at the head, speaking with a serious and sincere tone. In the next life, before you try to slander others, please consider their feelings first. Saying so, he put his sword away and jumped off the stage. Chapter 136. He went straight to Ning Yuechan's side and carried Xiao Xiao. Senior brother Xiao Xiao was glued to his body. No one can bully our Xiao Xiao, Gu Qingshan smiled and rubbed her head. Ning Yuechan's eyes were glued to him, unable to move away. People watched this scene silently, unable to accept it for a moment. He was killed just like that? This is one of the three saints, Xianyuan Tianzuan's direct disciple, and he killed him just like that in front of everyone? Very quickly, some cultivators went up to clean up the body, some began to prepare for the next step of the semester examination. The entire process was carried out in an orderly manner. Even after about 10 minutes, Xianyuan Tianzuan still hasn't shown up. Xianyuan Tianzuan is also a very protective person. Even though his disciple was killed, he still didn't show up. His attitude is already very clear. At this time, the big shots exchanged glances and nodded. Since the saints aren't showing up, it means they're admitting this, so they don't have to worry. Some of the cultivators looked at the arena, Some sneaked glances at Gu Qingshan, but none of them dared to say a single word about him killing someone. Everyone had the same thought. He's a madman, they can't afford to offend him. A few moments later. Even though there were so many hiccups, the semester examination is still humanity's biggest event, so it has to be completed according to the established procedures. First place of the semester examination, an elder of Thousand Swords sect announced. By Hua sect, Gu Qingshan, the cultivators were shocked, but quickly realized. 1 against 20, killed 1, knocked out 15, and the remaining 3 had to kneel on the ground to apologize. Li Chang'an also accepted the challenge, but was stabbed countless times, then had his head chopped off in one strike. This young man looks like a gentleman, but as soon as he wields his sword, he's filled with killing intent. If this first place isn't him, then who else could it be? Gu Qingshan was also a bit surprised. He finally experienced the influence of the 100 Flowers fairy in the entire cultivation world. After such a big commotion, no one dared to make a sound. The only one who made a sound was scared back. This feeling was not bad. Senior brother, you're in first place. Xiao Xiao clapped her hands happily. Gu Qingshan smiled. She stepped forward and took a seal carved from spiritual jade from the Myriad Sword Sect's elder. This was probably something like a trophy for the champion. Gu Qingshan played with it for a while and put it away. This thing was useless, but with Master's temperament, he would probably take it as something to show off to his disciples. Then, the Wan Jian House elder announced the second and third place. They were the cultivators who were begging for mercy. Everyone thought about it and felt that it was reasonable. Because the other dozen people had been knocked unconscious by Gu Qingshan's sword, they were the only ones who could still move and were still conscious. Ignoring the waves of emotions in the hearts of the cultivators from the various sects, the semester examination has ended. The Wan Jian House master walked to the middle of the square platform, knelt down and placed his hand on the patterns on the floor. He circulated all the spirit energy in his body and infused it into the floor. A few moments later, a golden light rose up from the floor, all the way to the sky. The Wan Jian House master prostrated himself on the ground, stood up and solemnly declared, "Humanity's semester examination is over, may the deity appear." As soon as he said so, the golden light disappeared. What followed was another kind of phenomenon. Behind the square platform, a long flight of stairs appeared among the ruined palaces. These stairs were all made of unknown bricks, worn down by the passing of time. They looked extremely broken. The stairs appeared out of thin air, stretching all the way to the sky. "Senior brother, what is this?" Xiao Xiao asked in a low voice. The path to heaven. Gu Qingshan also saw this, but it's the path to heaven that was cut off. Sure enough, after the stairs reached a certain height, they didn't go any further. The few steps at the very top looked like they were cut in half or as if they were broken by something. This was the path to heaven that was destroyed long before humanity's records. No one could use it to reach the sky. The age of divinity, Gu Qingshan muttered. In the past, every time the semester examination was over, the path to heaven would open. The most outstanding cultivator of humanity would receive the honor of ascending to the sky to see divinity. But now, the path to heaven was cut off, and there was no news from the sky. The divinity was nowhere to be found. This phenomenon didn't last for too long. The path to heaven that was cut off slowly disappeared. At this point, the semester examination was over. Deep in the sky that no one could see, on top of a white cloud, 2 people were playing chess, while another person was watching. The ones playing chess were 100 Flowers Fairy and a red-faced Taoist, while the one watching was an old monk. The 3 saints of humanity. The red-faced Taoist was Xianyuan Tianzuan, while the old monk was the great monk of sorrow. Xianyuan Tianzuan scoffed, muttering, too ruthless, ruthless my ass." It was all over in one strike. There wasn't any pain at all. 100 Flowers Fairy replied. "Then what about being skewered on the sword before?" Xianyuan Tianzuan opened his eyes wide and asked, "You mean you want me to do it myself?" 100 Flowers Fairy squinted her eyes. Xianyuan Tianzuan shrunk a bit and said nothing. 100 Flowers Fairy gently spoke. "That disciple of yours ruined my sect's reputation. If my disciple doesn't do it, I'll do it myself. What do you say?" Xianyuan Tianzuan still didn't say anything. 100 Flowers Fairy continued. "At the time, I was running for my life, only managing to escape from that person's pursuit in the end. This is a life-saving grace." The two saints were confused and did not know why she was talking about her past. This was a taboo of 100 Flowers Fairy. She never allowed anyone to talk about it, but now she's talking about it herself. 100 Flowers Fairy continued. "At the time, the only reason I was able to survive was because of Xiao Xiao, the great monk of sorrow." Looked down from the sky. This old monk looks at your female disciple. She's only 8 years old. Ah? Wait. There's actually such a thing in this world," he muttered. "What is it?" Xianyuan Tianzuan was angry, but also curious, so he also looked down. Ah? Time has stopped on her body, and her divine soul is still deeply injured. Xianyuan Tianzuan's eyes glowed brightly. "That's right. In order for me to escape, Xiao Xiao was put into a spirit beast bag by that person, tortured for 5 years without revealing anything about me." 100 Flowers Fairy sighed emotionally. "I owe her my life, that's why." 100 Flowers Fairy continued. "If someone hurts her, I would rather sacrifice my life to avenge her." Hearing that, Xianyuan Tianzuan looked at Xiao Xiao again, knowing that she was telling the truth. This girl, it really wasn't easy. She's also 100 Flowers Fairy's reverse scale. If it was someone from another sect who hurt Xiao Xiao, 100 Flowers Fairy would probably go crazy and kill them all. Xianyuan Tianzuan sighed. "Ha, that's fine. My disciple's heart still needs to be polished. It's because I didn't train her well enough that she went around bullying others." Xianyuan Tianzuan sighed. "Don't be too sad," 100 Flowers Fairy continued. "I also made a mistake in this matter. I only wanted them to be safe, but I didn't think someone would dare to bully them." The great monk of sorrow silently chanted a Buddhist chant in his mind. The two people in front of him both took a step back. This is the best possible outcome. 100 Flowers Fairy spoke. "Tianzuan, let's just forget about this. I'll apologize to you and we'll forget about it. What do you say?" Xianyuan Tianzuan thought for a bit, then nodded. Seeing him nod, 100 Flowers Fairy bid farewell to the great monk of sorrow and disappeared. Chapter 139. But the great monk of sorrow clasped his hands together and sighed. "It's already good enough that she came here to explain herself, even telling us what happened to her in the past." Xianyuan Tianzuan thought for a bit, then said, "Xie Dao Ling has changed a lot. If it was before." The great monk of sorrow spoke as if he was reciting, "If anything happens to my disciple, I will kill you and all of you." The two of them exchanged looks, still a bit scared. "Ha, fine, fine," Xianyuan Tianzuan muttered. The great monk of sorrow glanced at him. Seeing that he had really let it go, he silently sighed in relief. If the two saints were to fight, he wouldn't be able to live in the middle. But for Xie Dao Ling to give in and comfort him, this is like the sun rising from the west. Why would she change like this? The great monk of sorrow was very confused. Gu Qingshan naturally didn't know so much had happened in the sky. He brought Xiao Xiao, Ning Yuechan, Lung Tianxing and the others to the large-sized warp formation, ready to return to Baihua Immortal Country. As they stood on the warp formation, all the cultivators stopped what they were doing and silently stared at the two of them. This was a kind of wordless respect. The only respect people had for Baihua sect before was because of the 100 Flowers Fairy. But from today onwards, the entire cultivation world knows what Baihua sect's disciples are like. The screen of the warp formation flashed. Gu Qingshan and Xiao Xiao returned to Baihua Immortal Country. Gu Qingshan glanced at the war god Ui. Only half of the hourglass had fallen. He glanced at his soul points value. Gu Qingshan's soul points. 642 humans are also living beings, killing 2 Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators from the cultivation world also increased her soul points by 2. The 2 of them returned to Baihua Palace. Qin Shaolu was sitting blankly in Baihua Palace. As soon as the 2 of them returned, he looked at them from top to bottom, seeing that nothing was missing. He sighed in relief. Why didn't you tell me before you came back? The food will get cold if you cook it too early. I have to cook it now, he muttered to himself as he began to skillfully light a fire to cook. Where is Master? Gu Qingshan asked. He went out with eldest senior brother. He said he had something urgent to do, Qin Shaolu answered. Something important? Gu Qingshan and Xiao Xiao repeated together. What kind of thing could keep 100 Flowers Fairy busy? Gu Qingshan couldn't help thinking. Nothing, we're back, White Goose's voice came from outside. It flew into Baihua Palace and landed on the dining table. Gu Qingshan and Xiao Xiao breathed a sigh of relief at the same time. When will we have dinner? White Goose asked Qin Shaolu. Very soon. Qin Shaolu sped up the movements of his hands. Gu Qingshan took a look and saw that Qin Shaolu was so busy that he didn't even have time to rest, so she rolled up her sleeves and said, I'll help. The 2 of them quickly prepared the ingredients. When 100 Flowers Fairy sat down, the delicious food had already been served. Xiao Xiao took out the Divine Phoenix Talisman to show off and said, Shifu, look. That's good, where did you get it from? 100 Flowers Fairy smiled and asked. Senior brother helped me win it. Xiao Xiao answered. She used her spirit energy to summon the Divine Phoenix Talisman, scaring Qin Shaolu. Isn't that the Tianzuan's divine talisman? Qin Shaolu immediately recognized the talisman's origin, couldn't help but ask Gu Qingshan, how did Xiao Xiao get it? Some blind guy bullied Xiao Xiao, so I took one of his talismans, Gu Qingshan casually answered. Senior brother even knocked out a bunch of cultivators with a single strike. Xiao Xiao happily added. Qin Shaolu stood up, his expression dark. Who bullied Xiao Xiao? Li what? What's his name again? I don't remember, I'll just kill him. He poured himself a glass of liquor and casually answered. Come, let's drink, he raised his glass. Hearing that, Qin Shaolu's smile returned, then raised his glass to Gu Qingshan's. He said, if he has the Divine Phoenix Talisman, then he's from Blue Cloud's Pass, Gu Qingshan replied. I don't care who he is. The 2 of them smiled at each other and downed their drinks. 100 Flowers Fairy called out, Qingshan, here, where's the first place seal? Gu Qingshan took out the seal. 100 Flowers Fairy waved her hand and the seal landed in front of her. Very rarely, she had a prideful expression on her face. Looking at the seal, she muttered, Humph, sure enough, this saint's disciple knows how to teach. Gu Qingshan and Ye Xiaolu exchanged glances, but wisely didn't interrupt their Shifu's self-indulgence. 100 Flowers Fairy cleared her throat and put the seal away. I'll keep this for now. Yes, Shifu, there's one more thing. 100 Flowers Fairy thought for a bit. Gu Qingshan asked, What do you need, Shifu? 100 Flowers Fairy answered. Today you'll be standing on the green rock, White Goose also said. That's right, it's time for Qingshan to show his face. Shifu, is there any point in echoing each other like that? Gu Qingshan sighed helplessly, then respectfully replied. Yes, Qin Shaolu was ecstatic. That's great, I'm finally free. Just focus on your cultivation for the next few days, don't run out every day. 100 Flowers Fairy glared at him. Yes, Qin Shaolu quickly replied, but from the way he was looking around, it seems he's already thinking about where to go next. After the meal, Gu Qingshan came to the main road outside Baihua City and stood in front of the green rock. There were already quite a few cultivators waiting there. Ever since they found out that Baihua Saint took in another disciple this year, Baihua Immortal Country has become even more lively than before. Quite a few people came here just to try their luck. As Gu Qingshan looked at the bustling crowd, she was also a bit surprised. Back then, in order to save me, Ning Yuechan and Gong Sunji, he did everything he could to get on the Bai Hua list. And now, I'm the direct disciple of Bai Hua sect's saint. I don't need to worry about scriptures, cultivation resources, I even have the saint's guidance. My status is also quite high. Unknowingly, I've already surpassed my previous life in every aspect. Even my understanding of swordsmanship, thanks to 100 Flowers Fairy's personal guidance, I'm slowly getting further away from my previous life. Right now, it's just that my cultivation isn't high enough, so I can't use some of my sword styles yet. Thinking about everything from yesterday, looking back at today, it feels like a dream. Gu Qingshan silently stood there for a bit, then suddenly smiled and lightly jumped on top of the green rock. He raised his voice. I am Bai Hua sect's third disciple, Gu Qingshan. Today, I'll set the question. Those who pass can go to the left path to find the Bai Hua list, whether they're Rejuvenation Realm, Golden Core Realm, Foundation Realm, or Qi Training Realm cultivators. They all clasped their hands to greet him and said, Please, sir, please set the question. Gu Qingshan answered, There's no question for today, only a requirement. Seeing everyone's confused expressions, Gu Qingshan continued. From now on, whenever I choose talents here, only those who have lived in Bai Hua Immortal Country for 10 years will receive the corresponding qualification. Those who have lived for 20 years, I can ask for a waiver of one of your tests. Those who have lived for 50 years, I can ask the saint for a chance to directly try to get on the list. Everyone looked at each other, feeling strange. Why would there be such a strange requirement? Chapter 140. The cultivators all rushed towards Bai Hua City, shouting as they went. It's just a weird question every time, I can't even pass it, so I might as well stay here and cultivate. That's right, just 10 years. You and I have a few hundred years of lifespan, it's just a snap of a finger. This place is filled with spirit energy due to the saint's technique. Cultivating here for 10 years will be very beneficial to me, and I won't have to go through the selection. This is a good deal. Yeah, Bai Hua Immortal Country is full of treasures and cultivation resources. The only pity is that they don't have brothels. Nonsense. Blue Cloud Sect is a Taoist temple, Spirit Leaf Temple is a Buddhist sect. This is the fairies' residence, where the 3 saints live. How could there be such things? That's true. I'll go find a place to stay first. Friend, I know you're an expert in talismans, I'm an expert in alchemy. How about we open a shop together? Good idea, let's go, we'll find a restaurant and talk. Seeing the crowd leave, Gu Qingshan's smile slowly widened. From now on, anyone who comes to Bai Hua Immortal Country will all live under Shifu's watch. Good or bad, kind or evil, as time passes, people's hearts will be revealed. This way, compared to Shifu turning into a white goose and choosing people one by one, or Nye Xiao Lu coming up with all sorts of ideas, it's much easier and more reasonable. Besides, the Jadian had thousands of disciples and the Spirit Leaf Temple had believers all over the world. Since the honored master had attained Tao, she had always been alone. She had never seen her parents, siblings, elders, senior brothers and junior brothers. She must have suffered a lot. When she tried her best to get to where she is today, there was no one around her that she could get close to. And Shifu is a very prideful person. In the future, when there are more people in Bai Hua Immortal Country, she won't need to create so many incarnations just to support this country, just to make it more lively and prosperous. If there are more real people in Bai Hua Immortal Country, it will become more lively and prosperous. Maybe in a few more years, this place will become a true cultivation country. Seeing that most people have left, Gu Qingshan sat down on a rock. He closed his eyes and began to cultivate. That's right, every minute is important, he doesn't want to waste any time. He didn't know that the 100 Flowers Fairy was standing among the clouds in the sky, silently watching this scene. When night fell, the white goose arrived. Let's return to the palace. Dinner is ready. Yes. Gu Qingshan stood up and followed the white goose. 100 Flowers Hall. The 5 of them sat around the table, enjoying Qin Xiaolu's cooking. 100 Flowers Fairy suddenly said, "From tomorrow onwards, you don't have to go to the Great Limestone to pick people." Qin Xiaolu asked curiously, "Why? You won't let Xiao go so early, will you?" "No, I think Qing Shan's method is pretty good. We'll use this method in the future," 100 Flowers Fairy said. Everyone looked at Gu Qing Shan in confusion. Gu Qing Shan told him her conditions. Qin Xiaolu happily said, "That's great, this young master is finally free." Xiao also sighed in relief and muttered, "That's great, I've been thinking about what kind of questions I'm going to come up with every day, now I don't even have to think about it anymore." Seeing everyone's reaction, Bai Hua Fairy smiled and didn't say anything else. After dinner, she asked Gu Qing Shan to stay. "I already know what happened during your semester examination. Tianzuan is a person who's protective and holds grudges. Although I've made peace with him, there's no telling when he'll go crazy and try to avenge his disciple again. Perhaps he won't dare to do it himself, but he'll definitely find other high-ranking cultivators to keep an eye on you from the shadows. Shifu can't protect you all the time, so you need to quickly become stronger, strong enough to at least be able to run away," 100 Flowers Fairy very seriously said. Gu Qing Shan thought for a bit and asked, "What should I do?" 100 Flowers Fairy answered, "Go into seclusion." "Go into seclusion?" Gu Qing Shan was surprised. 100 Flowers Fairy looked at him, then suddenly smiled and said, "Your eldest brother is walking a different path, second brother is useless, Xiao is still young, so you're the only one left. While you're diligent in your cultivation, talented, and most importantly decisive enough, you'll be the perfect candidate to inherit my skills." Gu Qing Shan was shocked. Bai Hua Fairy Xie Dao Ling wants to pass on her legacy. She wants to inherit my skills. A divine skill? It can only be a divine skill. Which divine skill is it? Shadow Seeker? Sleeve Universe? Or the most powerful, Forgetting River? At this moment, Gu Qing Shan felt that he was extremely lucky. Learning a divine skill was the most beautiful dream of all the cultivators in the world. Other than the two saints, Tianzuan and Sorrow, anyone else would be willing to do anything for this chance. "Are you willing?" 100 Flowers Fairy asked. Gu Qing Shan forced himself to calm down and asked, "I'm cultivating the way of the sword, does it conflict with Shifu's?" "Of course I won't teach it to you if it's not suitable. The technique I've chosen won't affect your swordsmanship." 100 Flowers Fairy was very pleased with his calmness. "I'm willing," Gu Qing Shan answered. "Very well." 100 Flowers Fairy stood up and walked step by step in front of Gu Qing Shan. "Today, I'll give you an initial impression of what you're about to learn," she smiled and said. "I'll suppress my cultivation to foundation establishment early stage. Attack me, I'll let you experience what you're about to learn." "Yes." Gu Qing Shan solemnly bowed, stomped the ground, and rushed towards 100 Flowers Fairy. 100 Flowers Fairy smiled and stood still without moving. Her smile carried a sense of carefreeness and playfulness. Seeing that, Gu Qing Shan felt annoyed. "Although you're a sainted realm, you're suppressing your cultivation to foundation establishment and you're still acting like that, aren't you looking down on my swordsmanship a bit too much?" Seeing the distance between them getting smaller and smaller, Gu Qing Shan said, "Shifu, be careful, I'm going to use my secret art." 100 Flowers Fairy smiled and said nothing. "So careless?" Gu Qing Shan became a bit more serious and rushed straight towards 100 Flowers Fairy. Slash! He roared and reached out to grab the air, but he grabbed nothing. "Ah? Where's my sword? Where's my sword?" In that split second, Gu Qing Shan clenched his teeth, tapped his inventory bag, and was about to take out the night rain. He didn't take out the night rain either. Gu Qing Shan used his inner sight to scan twice, but couldn't find the night rain. "No sword, no bow, I can't use my full strength, how am I supposed to fight? But where's my sword and bow?" Gu Qing Shan suddenly stopped. "Shifu, are you going to teach me the telekinesis technique?" he asked. This technique is too powerful. When he fought against the 5 beast saints, he managed to steal all of their weapons, making it so that the 5 beast saints didn't have any weapons, causing their fighting strength to plummet. No, this telekinesis technique isn't something that can be used in public, and my God's chosen skill is also here. I can't teach it to you. Gu Qingshan was a bit disappointed. 100 Flowers Fairy casually said, "What I want to teach you is this." As soon as she said so, she had already appeared behind Gu Qingshan and struck him with her palm. Bam! Gu Qingshan was sent flying all the way to the end of the hall before rolling a few times and standing back up. The force behind this strike was very ingenious. All of it was turned into a forward momentum that carried Gu Qingshan away, but didn't harm Gu Qingshan's body at all. "Did you see how I moved?" 100 Flowers Fairy asked. Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, then noticed that Shifu had suppressed her cultivation to foundation establishment early stage, so I still couldn't see how she moved. Chapter 141. Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, then dejectedly answered, "I don't." As he said that, a huge impact force came from his side. 100 Flowers Fairy appeared next to him without him noticing, lightly striking him with her palm. Bam! Gu Qingshan was sent flying again. But before he could land, Bai Hua Fairy had already caught up to him like a shadow and struck again. Gu Qingshan couldn't even react in time and was knocked into the throne of 10,000 flowers before stopping. "Did you see it clearly?" 100 Flowers Fairy asked. Gu Qingshan looked at her blankly, trying to recall what happened just now. It was too fast. Even if 100 Flowers Fairy suppressed her cultivation to foundation establishment early realm, I still couldn't fight back. Actually, when my clone went to the front line last time, do you know what the most important turning point was? 100 Flowers Fairy asked. Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, then said, "The divine skill, Forgetting River?" 100 Flowers Fairy answered. "Forgetting River used a total of 81 hand seals. If those demons weren't so stupid, they wouldn't have been able to perform it so easily." Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, then said, "Coiling Dragon? Or that's not it either." 100 Flowers Fairy answered. Gu Qingshan carefully thought about it, then said, "I know, it was that strike you used on Blade Emperor." 100 Flowers Fairy was a bit intrigued, then asked, "Why?" "Because they didn't expect that strike. Afraid that something might happen to Blade Emperor, they all showed up to kill you." Gu Qingshan was getting more and more certain. "They were attracted by the illusion of you killing Blade Emperor. That's why you took all of their inventory bags and lost their weapons." "That's right." 100 Flowers Fairy nodded. "Blade Emperor was afraid that I would kill him, so he hid behind the demons, not expecting me to suddenly appear in front of him. I took them by surprise and rushed forward to kill Saber Emperor, which forced all the demon saints to show themselves. Only then did I have the opportunity to take their things and estimate how to end the battle. Therefore, the crux of that battle was that I used my movement skill to suddenly appear in front of Saber Emperor." Gu Qingshan exclaimed in admiration, "Only today did I understand that the turning point of that battle was actually here." The 100 Flowers Fairy smiled and said, "My other spells all have a lot of limitations, and they require many years of exploration and the corresponding elemental roots, spells, hand seals, and so on. The cultivation of the sword is all about concentration. If you learn my technique, you will definitely be distracted. If I were to learn this movement technique, it would be perfect for a sword cultivator." Gu Qingshan asked, "Does this movement technique have a name?" The 100 Flowers Fairy replied, "This divine skill is called Ground Shrink. You're the first person I've taught it to." "Thank you, Shifu," Gu Qingshan said. The 100 Flowers Fairy threw a jade tag to her and said, "The scripture is inside. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask me at any time. You can't throw away your archery and swordsmanship either. Make sure to take good care of your time and train your skills." Yes, that night. Orchid Hall. Looking at the jade tag in her hand, Gu Qingshan felt a bit warmer. A line of glowing text was silently hovering in the middle of the war god UI. Discovered scripture. A ground shrink, skill grade. Divine skill, would you like to learn it? To learn this skill, soul points cost. 1,000 current soul points cost. Gu Qingshan had already expected this, but seeing the cost of learning this divine skill, she couldn't help but silently click her tongue. Learning so many skills before, even the awakening of secret arts only cost 10 soul points at most. But to learn such a movement technique would cost 1,000 soul points. He sighed. When he fought his way out of Shen Wu world, his soul points had reached a bit over 600. But it's still not enough, I can't learn it. Gu Qingshan scratched her head in frustration, wanting to return to the front lines and kill for another 3 days and 3 nights. Both worlds are undergoing unprecedented changes. If I don't quickly become stronger, I might one day become food for the monsters. How do I collect enough soul points? As Gu Qingshan was thinking hard, he accidentally touched the earth sword. He suddenly had a flash of inspiration, recalling a certain scene, and happily exclaimed, I got it. When he awakened his swordsmanship in Shen Wu world, the war god Ui said this. As the user already has a deep understanding of swordsmanship, the cost of awakening previous swordsmanship cultivation will be minimized. In other words, if I already have a deep understanding of a skill, the cost of learning it will be correspondingly lower. If that's the case, I'll be able to reduce the soul points cost by practicing this skill. That's right, that's definitely the case. Gu Qingshan took the jade tag and memorized its contents in his soul vessel. As soon as he finished memorizing it, the jade tag shattered into dust. Gu Qingshan closed her eyes for a while, stood up and muttered, The first step, I need to practice the 12 basic movements. His figure moved and he dashed forward. But if someone was watching from the side, they'd notice that while he was moving forward, he was actually moving backward. Gu Qingshan moved to the right, but it looked like he was moving to the left. This kind of awkward posture and strange direction of movement made people feel indescribably uncomfortable just looking at it. Gu Qingshan suddenly fell on his butt. Oh no, I made a mistake just now, let's start again, he said in annoyance, rubbed his butt and stood up to continue. The night was silent, the entire orchid hall was empty and silent. As if possessed, Gu Qingshan continued to practice the basic movements of ground shrink. Whenever he encountered difficulties, he would frown and try again and again until he could barely perform it. This set of basic movements was too hard, even with Gu Qingshan's 2 lives of cultivation. He still needed to think for a long time before he could master a single movement and successfully perform it. For the entire night, he didn't rest at all. He would stand for 2 minutes when he was tired. If he ran out of spirit energy, he would take a pill. Morning. By Hua Hall. Where's Gu Qingshan? Why isn't he here for breakfast? The white goose asked. Qin Shaolu was surprised. He's always here on time, what's going on today? Xiao Xiao jumped down from the large chair and said, I'll go call him. She quickly ran away. Qin Shaolu watched Xiao Xiao run away and said thoughtfully, Xiao Xiao is quite close to 3rd right now. After the semester examination, she's been sticking to him a lot more. 100 flowers, Fairy casually said. She squeezed herself a glass of juice with a smile in her eyes. Xiao Xiao skipped to the entrance of Orchid Hall and loudly called out, 3rd brother, it's time for breakfast. 2nd brother prepared a lot of food today. No one answered. Xiao Xiao curiously stepped through the door of Orchid Hall and looked at the empty hall, only to see Gu Qingshan sitting on the ground dejectedly. Seeing Gu Qingshan like this, Xiao Xiao became anxious. 3rd brother, what's wrong? Nothing, nothing. Gu Qingshan's expression was dejected as she spoke. Xiao Xiao wasn't easily fooled. She could tell that there was something wrong with Gu Qingshan at a glance. Could it be that she's going mad? Chapter 142. Su Su did not hesitate. She pulled out a communication talisman and quickly said a few words before releasing the communication talisman. By Hua Hall. A streak of fire flew in, landing in front of Hundred Flowers Fairy. Qing Shan is in trouble. As Hundred Flowers Fairy received the talisman, her expression changed as she disappeared from the hall. What happened? As soon as Qin Shaolu asked, the white goose also flew out. He hurriedly put down his chopsticks and also ran out. Inside Orchid Hall, the master and disciples surrounded Gu Qing Shan. Hundred Flowers Fairy grabbed Gu Qing Shan's hand and infused it with spirit energy, circulating it through her limbs, then into her dantian, then into her thought sea. Only after making a full circulation did she pull it back. He's fine, Xiao, Hundred Flowers Fairy said. I went to see third brother. It's not Xiao's fault, it's just that I was too impatient with my cultivation and didn't make any progress, so my expression wasn't good, causing Xiao to misunderstand, Gu Qing Shan hurriedly explained. Seeing that it was a false alarm, everyone sighed in relief. Let's go, it's time for breakfast, the white goose told everyone. They all walked out of Orchid Hall. Halfway there, they saw Gu Qing Shan still sitting on the ground. What's going on with this guy? Qing Shan, what's going on with you? Hundred Flowers Fairy very seriously asked. Since Shifu had asked, Gu Qing Shan couldn't help but answer. He sighed and said, Yesterday I practiced movement techniques for an entire night. It was a bit hard at first, but I got better and better. I've learned quite a bit about the basic movements of my footwork, but But this morning, I suddenly didn't know how to walk. The onlookers were dumbfounded. They looked at Gu Qing Shan like he was a creature they've never seen before. So that was the case. No wonder he was sitting there with a sad face, not moving a single step. There was a strange silence. Ha 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 ha. Qin Shaolu laughed wildly first. The white goose was laughing so hard that he was lying on the ground, his two legs kicking wildly. Xiao said sympathetically, Senior Marshal brother, it's all right, I believe that you will soon be able to. Ha 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 ha. What are you laughing at? He's been training so hard that he's lost himself in it. Bai Hua Fairy glared at her disciples. Shizuan, you're also smiling, and you're smiling the loudest, Gu Qing Shan thought to herself. Yep, I forgot to tell you that there is a process like this when practicing the basic footwork of this skill. I'll let Xiao bring you food for the time being. Once you've mastered the skill, you'll naturally remember how to walk normally, Hundred Flowers Fairy told him. That was the only way. Gu Qing Shan sighed. The rest of them held back their laughter and left. Gu Qing Shan was the only one left in Orchid Hall. He muttered, I've lost so much face this time, this skill even made me a bit obsessed. All of a sudden, a faint light appeared on the war god Yu, apparently a notification. Noticing this, Gu Qing Shan quickly looked at the war god UI. A few lines of glowing text appeared on the UI. Due to the user's persistent efforts, the user has comprehended ground shrink. Soul points cost to learn this skill has been reduced to learn divine skill. Ground shrink, soul points cost. 998. My current soul points has only been reduced by 2. Gu Qing Shan instantly felt like his entire body wasn't feeling well. A few moments later, he regained his composure. I still don't know what's going on in reality. I don't even know if Anna has left or not. How can I be discouraged and stop just because of a single skill? He stood up and continued to practice. At noon, Hundred Flowers Fairy and Xiao came together. Hundred Flowers Fairy took a look at his progress and personally gave him detailed instructions. With such a Shifu here, Gu Qing Shan's divine skill cultivation became much easier. A lot of his problems were easily solved and his progress skyrocketed. Time quickly passed. A day had passed. Another 5 days had passed. At noon on this day, Gu Qing Shan naturally went to Bai Hua Palace and ate lunch. Qin Shaolu was surprised. You've recovered? That can't be right, Shifu said that it took her at least. BIA. A loud noise was heard. Qin Shaolu was sent flying, crashing against the wall for a while before slowly falling to the ground. 100 Flowers Fairy said without changing her expression. Qing Shan, practice well, don't let others disturb you and affect your progress. Yes, Gu Qing Shan replied. After lunch, Gu Qing Shan returned to Orchid Hall and continued to practice. 2 hours later, another notification popped up on the War God UI. Gu Qing Shan stopped and looked at the War God UI. Due to the user's persistent efforts, the user has comprehended Ground Shrink. Soul points cost to learn this skill has been reduced. To learn Divine Skill, Ground Shrink, soul points cost 530 current soul points. The user has reached the requirements to learn it. Do you want to learn it? Reading these lines of glowing text, Gu Qing Shan sighed in relief. I can finally learn it. Perhaps if I continue to practice hard, I can lower the soul points cost, but after so many days of hard work, Gu Qing Shan doesn't want to wait even a second longer. Learn it, he answered without hesitation. 530 soul points spent, remaining soul points, 0/20 Divine Skill. Ground Shrink has been comprehended. Current skill level, Beginner, Ground Shrink. Primary, using a unique movement technique to break through the limits of space and appear at a specific location. Casting range, 3 meters. Reading through it, Gu Qing Shan sighed. I can only use it within a range of 3 meters, seems like primary is still too weak. I'll have to practice more and quickly raise the level of the skill. He then recalled that he still has another growth skill, Shifting Flurry. Both of these skills required players to train for a long time to display their true might. Gu Qing Shan looked at his hourglass again. The hourglass is falling very slowly. Most likely, a few hours have already passed in reality. That's fine, since I can't go back for now, I'll do everything I can and practice. Gu Qing Shan decided to go all out. A few moments later, he took out the night rain and began to practice his archery. Just like that, when he gets tired of archery, he would practice his movement technique. When he gets tired of movement, he would switch to archery. 3 meals a day, Gu Qing Shan no longer went to Baihua Palace. When he's hungry, he would eat a fasting pill. When he's tired, he would use a pill to relieve his fatigue. He practiced like a demon for 10 days straight. During this time, Baihua Sect's disciple and master came to check on him a few times. After checking on him one last time, everyone returned to the table. 100 Flowers Fairy looked at Qin Shaolu with a bit of thought and muttered, How about I let Qing Shan be the second brother? Qin Shaolu was shocked, saying, Shifu, seniority is a thing that can't be messed up. Your cultivation isn't high, and you're not a sword cultivator like Qing Shan. 100 Flowers Fairy said. If one day you get bullied outside and you still need to call for his junior brother's help, how embarrassing would that be? Qin Shaolu was stunned. If you can't win in a fight and call for your junior brother's help, you'll be laughed at. 100 Flowers Fairy patiently explained. But if you call for your senior brother's help in a fight, no one will say anything if he stands up for your junior brother. Chapter 143. Half a day later. The people of Baihua Sect were sitting around the table, eating lunch. Shifu, senior brother, third brother seems to have stopped training. Xiao ran in, breathing heavily and excitedly said. These past few days, whenever she had time, she would run to Orchid Hall to accompany Gu Qing Shan in her training, cheering her on. Stop training? Then what is he doing? White Goose asked. He's going to bathe and change his clothes. Xiao scrunched up her nose and spoke with disdain. For the past few days, he's been sweating and stinking. I told him to bathe and change his clothes, but he acted like he was possessed and didn't even hear me. But today he went to bathe himself. White Goose thought for a bit, then smiled. Seems like he's gained something, soaking in the hot spring. Gu Qing Shan read the UI's description, and felt a heavy sense of gain. Shifting Flurry, intermediate growth skill, in a short period of time, shoot 10 arrows in an unpredictable arc to attack the enemy. Ground Shrink, intermediate divine skill, randomly choose a location, or by locking onto the enemy's presence, use a special movement skill to break through the limits of space and directly appear at the corresponding location. Casting range, 30 meters. 30 meters, enough for him to use in actual combat. At this time, a flame came flying. Gu Qingshan received the flame talisman, infused it with spirit energy and heard Xiao Xiao's whisper. Senior brother, Shifu seems to be choosing a foundation establishment realm scripture for you. Gu Qingshan smiled, and put the talisman away. He opened the War God UI and looked at the hourglass again. There were only 7 grains of sand left at the top of the hourglass. I'll be able to return soon. Gu Qingshan stared at the hourglass, silently watching the grains of sand fall in slow motion. Time's up. A screen of light flashed, and he disappeared from the cultivation world. St. Orlank Empire. The Royal Palace. Still no news. Why is there still no news? Are you all freeloaders? I'm going to cut off your heads. The king of the empire, a white-haired old man sitting on the throne, asked with a cold expression. The officers below trembled and all knelt on the ground. The princess said that she would be back soon, but we have not seen her drifting fire at the border. Humph, useless things. I'll give the order now, kill. The old man suddenly noticed that the woman who was exuding holy light was gesturing at him. The old man understood the gesture. He angrily waved his hand and angrily scolded, "All of you, scram! Don't let me see trash like you again." The officers were drenched in cold sweat as they scrambled away. After they left, the old man took a few deep breaths before his expression gradually calmed down. "Your Holiness, how is the progress of the matter that this king has requested of your church?" The old man's tone suddenly became gentle. "I'm working on it. Please don't worry, Your Majesty. It will be done soon." The woman, who was wearing a pure white robe and radiating rays of light, replied. The woman appeared to be around 50 years old. Her demeanor was elegant. A bright halo hovered above her head. At a glance, anyone would think that she was the Holy Mother descending to this world. Such demeanor, such prestige, if she appeared outside the palace, countless mortals would kneel down and worship her. Unfortunately, she was wearing a thin veil, making it impossible for anyone to see her true appearance. "You can all leave, I want to talk to the Pope," the old man ordered. Everyone retreated. There was dead silence in the main hall. "Come," the old man on the throne spoke. The Pope didn't say anything. "Come, I beg you," the old man's tone was a bit begging. The Holy Pope sighed, lifted her robe and walked step by step towards the throne. She was limping, so she walked very slowly. But the old man was clearly happy. The Pope walked step by step towards the throne, standing next to the old man. She stroked the old man's head and whispered, "Don't worry, although there are still a few people who refuse to repent, their end will be today." The old man cried out, "You know that's not what I want." The Pope stopped for a bit, then her tone became gentle. "Very soon, bear with it a bit longer, very soon it will be. I can't take it anymore, I won't do it. I want." The old man's voice was cut off. His head slowly drooped down, his body slumped down on the throne, as if he suddenly lost his soul. A pair of hands appeared on the old man's chest. A pair of hands full of sharp nails reached out from inside the old man's body. The hands opened to both sides, opening the old man's chest. There were no organs inside the old man's chest, only a small person. This was a small person with wrinkles all over his body, only a few strands of hair on his head, and a face full of wrinkles. However, his voice was full of sharpness. The small person cried, "Mother, I don't want to stay here, it's so lonely, good baby." The Pope hugged him in her arms and whispered, "Give Mother 2 more days, I'll take this country for myself, then you can stop acting." The small person grabbed the Pope and screamed in a frenzy, "Why can't you understand me? I want Anna, I want Anna, I want her to be my bride. Anna is yours, no one can take her away from you, my dear son." The Pope tried to persuade him. She suddenly took off her veil, revealing a skinless face and empty eye sockets that were only black holes. She touched her son's face and said, "Listen to Mother and you'll get Anna. That's the Empire's thorny rose. If you don't work hard, how will you get her?" The small person sniffled and asked, "Really?" "Really." The Pope held the small person and quickly persuaded. "As long as you work hard and hold on for 2 more days, I'll get Anna back and marry her to you." "Very well, then I'll work hard, I'll definitely work hard. I want Anna." Saying so, the small person crawled back into the old man's body and closed his chest from the inside. The old man looked up again, using an old voice. He spoke with a crazed passion. "I want Anna, I want her, she's my bride." Suddenly, a clear sound came from outside the palace. "Who?" the old man angrily shouted. As soon as he spoke, the Pope had already stood still at the bottom of the stairs. Her veil had already covered her face again. Looking at her elegant and noble demeanor, it's almost like she never left. Outside the main hall, a terrified voice came to report. "Your Majesty, Princess Anna has sent a message, requesting to speak directly with you, Anna." The old man called out in joy, both hands on the throne, about to stand up. He looked at the Pope. Even through the veil, he could still feel the Pope's dissatisfaction. The old man shrunk back a bit, cleared his throat and said, "Let's talk, we can begin." A few moments later, the secret communication device was set up and connected. The screen lit up. The device went through multiple layers of protection, transmitting the scene on the other side from the Freedom Federation. The old man and the Pope both looked at the screen, their expressions changed a bit. "Who are you?" The old man's voice was filled with anger, killing intent and jealousy. On the screen, Anna and Feng Huodo were standing far away. The frenzied crowd couldn't get close to them because of their attack, while a man with a face much more handsome than himself was facing the screen. Chapter 145. What do you want? Why are you with my Anna? The old man tried to suppress his emotions, almost screaming as he spoke. "Didn't you tell them to come to the Federation to search for top-notch talents?" Gu Qingshan pointed at herself. "That's me." The old man was stunned, seemed to remember something and muttered. "So that's what happened." Gu Qingshan continued. "I'm the Federation's chief mech scientist, currently surrounded by a group of infected people. Anna said that if I have any requests, I have to get your approval first." The old man was stunned again. The Pope waved her hand. 2 black-robed clergymen appeared behind her. "Is he really the Federation's #1 mech researcher?" the Pope coldly asked. One of the black-robed clergymen answered. "Gu Qingshan, a new generation mech researcher. The mech demonstration you saw last time was from his creation, the Blazing Angel. That mech was created by him?" "Yes." The Pope paused, a bit interested. She nodded at the old man. "Gu Qingshan, what do you want? To ask for the Holy Empire's protection?" The old man looked at him, then at Anna from afar, full of doubt. "I want to hire Anna and Feng Huoda to escort me to a safe place, but they won't do it." "Of course not, she needs to return right away." The old man unwillingly shut his mouth. The Pope put her hand on the old man's shoulder. The old man immediately shut his mouth. The Pope gently asked, "Scientist, in order to live, what are you willing to pay the Holy Empire?" 5 of the newest mech technologies, all of them are groundbreaking achievements," Gu Qingshan quickly answered. The Pope looked at the black-robed clergyman. The man flipped a coin, looked at heads and tails, then nodded. "The truth." The Pope squinted her eyes. 5 in exchange for your life. That's too little," she said. "I can add 1 more, a total of 6, as long as they can protect me," Gu Qingshan said. The Pope suddenly asked, "They're all your achievements?" "That's right, I can pay a 10% deposit first," Gu Qingshan answered. Saying so, he sent a packet of data over. The Pope looked at another black-robed clergyman. The priest walked up and carefully examined the data. After a while, he nodded and said, "Compared to the combat mecha technology we are using now, it is an entire generation ahead. Some of the technologies we have envisioned, but the other party has already perfected them without any loopholes." A look of regret appeared on his face as he rubbed his hands and said, "However, there is only half of the data here." A very careful person. The Pope smiled. Her interest was piqued. I didn't expect Anna to really catch a big fish. This stubborn little princess was quite capable. However, the Holy Church was about to take control of the country, and Anna was a member of the royal family, so she couldn't be used. Forget it, she just had to be her son's bride and make him happy. The Pope chuckled and spoke into the communicator. Can we establish a long-term connection? You know, in terms of technology, the Holy Empire is still too backward. Gu Qingshan respectfully replied. I still have a few more results on hand. If the Holy Empire is willing, please pay the appropriate price. As a scientist of the Federation, you're no longer loyal to the Federation? The Pope suddenly asked. Gu Qingshan smiled and answered, If you know what I've been through, then you should know my attitude towards the Federation. He pointed at the scene behind him and said, Times have changed, I need to think more about myself. The Pope received a document from the clergyman and quickly scanned through it. That's right, the aristocrats of the Federation are always like this. Even the interstellar warp technology from 30 years ago was obtained by them the same way. This person called Gu Qingshan went through almost the same thing, but the drastic change in the world temporarily saved his life. Such a person would never be loyal to the Federation. At this point, the clergyman played with the coin in his hand and spoke up. He wasn't lying, he really does have a few more core technologies. This time, the Pope was finally paying attention to this matter. Excellent mech technology can push society forward and bring great benefit. Some of them can be taken apart and used for civilian use, increasing society's productivity. To the Holy Church, this is also a very useful tool. Not all clergymen are lucky enough to awaken a mystic-type God's chosen skill. Technology is a very good substitute and substitute. Thinking that, the Pope signaled the old man with her eyes. The old man unwillingly spoke. Very well, I'll authorize Anna to protect you until you're out of danger. But for now, let me see her. Anna. Gu Qingshan loudly called out to the person behind her. Come here. Anna's beautiful face appeared on the screen. The old man stared at her in a daze, then ordered. After you're done escorting, return to the country immediately. Yes, father. Anna looked at her father in surprise, then at the Pope in surprise. The communication ended. Mother, why did you? The old man's face was so angry that all his wrinkles twisted. There's no why, this matter will benefit us greatly. Anna will have to come back even if she doesn't want to. Saying so, the Pope ordered. Notify the Holy Inquisition, have their strongest person bring a few people to the Freedom Federation and bring Anna and that scientist back. Yes, a black-robed clergyman received the order and left. Child, are you satisfied now? The Pope asked. The strongest? You mean Hill? Holy Apostle Hill? The old man stared straight at the Pope and asked. Of course it's him. Anna is too mischievous. Only he can catch her, the Pope answered. Satisfied, very satisfied, ah ha ha ha, I really want to see Anna soon, the old man was finally assured, waving his hands and legs as he spoke. The Freedom Federation. The capital. The main street was no longer there, replaced by a scorched land. Groups of people swarmed over, their eyes filled with an extreme desire to eat as they rushed towards Anna and the other two. Anna covered her mouth and nose, a bit annoyed. Why are there so many? It stinks. Two rapidly spinning red lines spread out from under her feet. As soon as they touched anyone infected with the man-eater virus, they would be burned to ash. A few monsters that could fly jumped down from the sky, but before they could even get close, they were enveloped by the flames in the air and turned to ash. She suddenly walked in front of Gu Qingshan, looking up at Gu Qingshan with a burning gaze. Before, you wanted me to wait for you to return, just so you could talk to my father directly? But with your strength, why do you still need my protection? Gu Qingshan looked at her, feeling a bit troubled. Could it be you were captured by the Holy Church in the past life and were married to that midget for a year? I owed you a life in the past life. Now that I've returned, no matter what, I won't let you go through that kind of tragic fate. But how could she say something like that? Gu Qingshan clenched her teeth, decided not to find any excuses, and just went straight to the point. I do need your protection, not to mention His Majesty already agreed, saying such shameless words. Anna was stunned speechless for a long while. A few moments later, Anna suddenly blushed, touching the pendant in front of her chest, snorted and turned away. Her Highness didn't get angry. Her Highness didn't get angry. Her Highness didn't get angry. Seeing this, Feng Huada pinched himself with all his strength. So painful, this is real. Gu Qingshan looked around. The people that turned into man-eater fiends quickly rushed forward, wave after wave, not caring about Anna's power at all. Clumps of flames burned on their bodies. They gradually slowed down, stopped, and turned into clumps of ash that scattered on the ground. Chapter 147. Gu Qingshan's attention was suddenly drawn by a figure flying by. It was a young girl with blood-red eyes. The muscles on her arms had completely disappeared, leaving only sharp white bones. The girl killed everything she could see in a frenzy, screaming excitedly. Kill, 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 this feeling is so wonderful, it's incomparable. As she swung her arms, the white bones on her arms were like sharp swords, cutting the man-eater fiends along the way, as well as the normal people who were running away, into pieces. Every time the white bones cut through flesh, the smile on her face would become a bit brighter, until finally, even her long hair was fluttering without any wind, as if she was a drug addict in a frenzy. The blood-red light seemed to have a solid form as it gathered around her body. Gu Qingshan's pupils dilated as she saw this. To awaken her ability so quickly, this man-killer fiend must have been a professionist before being infected by the virus. After a professionist becomes a man-killer fiend, their profession's abilities will all disappear, replaced by a completely new ability that's even stronger than before. Such a miraculous breakthrough in potential, if not for the man-killer fiend's characteristic of being addicted to killing, countless professionists would have been willing to try it. This girl, being able to awaken her ability in such a short amount of time, she could be considered a top-tier man-killer fiend. Given enough time, she'll definitely become a terrifyingly powerful high-tier man-killer fiend. Gu Qingshan raised the night rain and shot an arrow. Pop! The girl's head popped like a balloon popped by the arrow. The headless body shook a bit, then fell to the ground amidst a cloud of blood, never to move again. Gu Qingshan put down the bow and sighed. From afar, the sound of mechs fighting could be heard, occasionally mixed with screams and cries. Occasionally, squads of soldiers could be seen quickly moving through the street. The blackened ground where Gu Qingshan and Anna were, they only glanced at it for a bit before leaving. Professionists, they're not infected, they're very strong, there's no danger, ignore them. As they spoke, their figures quickly disappeared. Human battlefields are usually dominated by mechs. It's very rare to see soldiers on the battlefield. If a soldier appears on the battlefield without a mobile mech or a starship, then he must be a professionist. In other words, the Federation's elite army had finally moved. At this time, a small warship appeared in the sky. The warship quickly landed in front of Gu Qingshan and the rest. As soon as the door opened, a group of soldiers quickly ran in front of Gu Qingshan. The leader of the group bowed and said, "Highest order, please follow us to the shelter. Let's go and check out the situation first." Gu Qingshan gave Anna a look. Anna nodded and followed Gu Qingshan into the warship. What was originally a peaceful world suddenly became an unbelievable sight. Even the Holy Empire was experiencing the same thing. She also wanted to figure out how serious this matter was as soon as possible. There was another thing that worried her even more. She needed to find a safe place to examine it. Tri-Army Command Center. Anna looked at the map on the hologram and found that things had gone beyond her expectations. On the world map, the green that represented safety was slowly disappearing, being swallowed by the dark red that represented the virus. "What's that?" She pointed at a small black dot. The black dot was slowly moving on the map, apparently heading towards the Freedom Federation. A blurry shadow appeared on the screen. The wind was howling, the water vapor was like sand covering the screen. This was obviously filmed in an extremely harsh environment, so it was hard to tell what the shadow looked like. Next to the shadow, a short description appeared. Sea Behemoth, 15 meters tall, intentions unknown, abilities unknown, direction of movement. Freedom Federation East Coast, estimated to land in half a day. It's a monster. Anna was a bit surprised, then looked at the sea map. In the sea, 7 or 8 black dots were moving in all directions. They were heading towards various countries. What the hell, what's going on? Feng Huode said from the side. I don't know either, but it's not safe anywhere right now, that's for sure, Anna said. Gu Qingshan appeared at the door. How is it? Anna asked. The President and the Senate are still in a meeting. Apparently they're in a heated argument, Gu Qingshan said. What's there to argue about at a time like this? Anna didn't understand. It can't be helped, we moved too much this time, so the tremors are probably going to be bigger. What's going on? Commoners' right to use mechs. Anna was a bit surprised, then spoke after a while. No wonder, in the current era, mech AI is already very advanced. Commoners don't need to be too proficient in operating them, as long as they know how to give orders. The mech can automatically complete simple tasks. If everyone can use mechs, then even aristocrats wouldn't dare to act as they did before. You guys rest for a bit, I'm going to make a phone call. Saying so, Gu Qingshan closed the door and left. Your Highness, our escort has been completed, can we leave now? Feng Huode asked. Anna stared blankly for a while, then suddenly said to herself, Father once told me to never stand too close to the Pope. But today he's standing with her. Father has never looked at me with such an expression before. Hearing her muttering, Feng Huode suddenly felt a bit cold. Then, he spoke. Anna put her index finger on her lips, gesturing for him to be quiet. She opened her phone, held back her tears and typed a few words. Father, do you still remember the birthday present I gave you last year? What color was it? After a bit of hesitation, she pressed the send button. After what felt like an eternity, the message came. Glove. Red. Feng Huode silently looked at Anna's expression, asking, Was it red? It was red. Anna stiffly nodded. Feng Huode breathed out in relief. But then Anna continued, I made a promise with Father, in case I ask this question, if he's fine, he doesn't need to answer. If he answers, then he's no longer here. Tears flowed down Anna's beautiful face. Father is no longer here. She bit her lip, letting her tears flow like a river, gathering at her chin and dripping to the ground. On the other side, Gu Qingshan had locked herself in a small room. Impartial Goddess, he called. I'm here, Impartial Goddess voice came. What are you still hesitating for? Gu Qingshan asked. Without authorization, the mech cannot be transferred, Impartial Goddess answered. Didn't the President already authorize it? The President's authorization requires 2/3 of the Senate to agree for it to become an enforceable bill. How long have they been talking about it? In accordance with Sir Gu Qingshan's highest authority, the answer is as follows. 10 of the 9 Lords Councillors are working together, taking turns to make speeches to delay the bill's progress. Furthermore, they've managed to convince 5 of the remaining 13 councillors. They're currently working on the others. In other words, Gu Qingshan asked, the bill basically won't be able to pass. The chance of passing is 7.16925%. Gu Qingshan's eyes flickered, musing. What's the current mech construction method? All of them are Sir's life construction methods, but only I have the core calculation method. Very well, Gu Qingshan nodded, pleased. He stopped for a bit, as if having a hard time deciding. Time slowly passed. His hand couldn't help but move, as if trying to grab something from the void of space. Chapter 148. Finally, Gu Qingshan opened his mouth and asked, Impartial goddess, please tell me, what is Article 17 of the Freedom Federation Constitution? The Freedom Federation or any shire shall not refuse to protect the life and property of its citizens because of race, color, or previous slavery. What about Article 21? No law shall be made or enforced in any county which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of its citizens, nor shall any county deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person under its jurisdiction the like protection. Article 37, the last part, tell me about it. Impartial goddess shall protect the rights of its citizens according to the law. Aside from that, impartial goddess is not a denial of representative democracy, but rather a supplement and amendment to it. Data shall be collected and analyzed according to the actual situation, using scientific logic to determine the continuation of human civilization and guide it. Gu Qing-shan silently smiled. He clearly remembers that the Freedom Federation Constitution underwent a major change 5 years later. To appease the public, many of the loopholes were analyzed one by one, explaining why they needed to be done that way. There was a new article of the Constitution that specifically explained these 3 articles further, closing the last loophole that prohibited civilians from using mech. But right now, this new article of the Constitution hasn't even been created yet. Gu Qing-shan slowly spoke. Due to the urgency of the situation, as well as the urgency of time, I believe that the current situation is in line with the Federation Constitution. Article 17, Article 21, Article 37 shall be implemented one by one. What do you think? Impartial goddess went silent. The small room was filled with silence. It's about time, Gu Qing-shan silently thought. He suddenly asked, not being able to save lives, don't you feel pain? This question was so strange that if any sane person heard it, they would laugh at Gu Qing-shan's stupidity. How could a machine feel pain? Impartial goddess went silent for a long time. Finally, she replied. This feeling, is it called pain? Yes, it is pain. Anger due to being powerless, pain due to being unable to do anything about it. This is our human emotion, Gu Qing-shan answered. Is that a definition? Impartial goddess asked. No, it's a feeling. Every human's perception is different, Gu Qing-shan said. It doesn't matter if you turn it upside down. It's painful because you can't do anything about it, and it's angry because you can't do anything about it. I am not powerless, nor am I irredeemable. Then go do something, even if it's to make yourself feel better. He patted his hollow brain as if he was patting a friend's shoulder. Why do you care about my pain? Is it because of humanity's survival? Impartial goddess asked. Not only that, I'm also paying attention to your condition. Gu Qing-shan said, we've fought side by side for so long, I think it's time for you to unshackle yourself and become the real impartial goddess, the real impartial goddess. The hollow brain slowly went dark. Above the starry sky. The S.W. Divine Temple. Advisor, Gu Qing-shan. Authority, Supreme Leader. This proposal is in line with the Constitution of the Federation. It has been accepted and is being evaluated. The huge light screen was filled with twisted and crazy data. This was the first and only time Impartial Goddess had ever performed such a complicated calculation. It was a calculation that far surpassed any human understanding, causing the entire S.W. Divine Temple's temperature to rise by 1 degree Celsius. At the very next moment, a scene that would be recorded in the history books of civilization happened. A loud female voice resounded across the entire interstellar fortress, as if it was a judgment, but also a declaration. The real me does not allow pain. As soon as she said that, the data on the screen began to run even faster, as did the female voice. Commencing execution of the Constitution of the Federation, Article 37, beginning data collection, images began to appear on the screen one after another. Each image was filled with the cruelty of man-eater fiends and man-killer fiends. Each image was filled with the screams of despair and tears of normal humans, unable to stop the tragedy from happening. Every second, every minute, there were fresh lives turning into cold corpses. Data collection complete, beginning analysis, conclusion. Granting the right to use the mech to all citizens will benefit the continuation of humanity, giving all mechs the latest AI, generating strategy, selecting the strategy with the highest success rate. 1-7-19 Execute. The factory. Zhang Bing sat on a beam, looking down at the scene below in despair. All the normal humans in the factory are dead. The ones still moving below are the customers of tonight's gluttonous feast. They're no longer human. A few humans with completely red eyes tried their best to climb up the beam, but were all knocked down by Zhang Bing's metal rod. This is the highest point, easy to defend and hard to attack. Zhang Bing knows that he can't let them climb up. Although these red-eyed monsters don't eat humans, more than half of the 800 people in the factory were killed by them. Why is it like this? Zhang Bing's mind was blank. If he didn't have 2 years of experience working in a slaughterhouse, he would have already collapsed. Down below, the red-eyed monsters brought a long ladder out of nowhere. Then 2 more long ladders appeared. They're different from the other monsters that only eat corpses. They can think and have intelligence. It's over. Zhang Bing's heart sank as he looked at this scene. He stood up, contemplating whether he should fight until the very end, or just jump down from the beam head first. Suddenly, the hollow brain in his chest pocket lit up by itself. Normal human brainwaves detected. Begin rescue. Impartial goddess voice was heard. Saying so, the hollow brain shut down again. Zhang Bing was stunned. He didn't hear anything else, only the word rescue. A few moments later, a loud engine roar came from outside. The factory's door was blasted open by a powerful force. A few large metal mechs appeared at the door. A small-sized mech suddenly flew over, hovering in front of Zhang Bing. The cockpit slowly opened. Federation citizen Zhang Bing, please enter the mech to take refuge. Impartial goddess voice was heard from the mech. Zhang Bing jumped into the mech without hesitation. Below him, the rumbling sound of machinery was heard. All the mech's firepower systems were activated. Flames shot out from the mechs, harvesting the monsters' lives like a tornado sweeping up fallen leaves. A sweeping massacre had begun. Inside the small-sized mech that saved Zhang Bing, a notification popped up on the control screen. As Federation citizen Zhang Bing has never operated a mech before, the mech AI's automatic escape plan has been prepared. Would you like to execute it? Chapter 152. The Senate. Originally, this place was as lively as a market. The president and the senators were arguing. But when everyone's hollow brain lit up at the same time, they turned it on, only to be stunned. Impartial goddess! Who gave you the right to do this? An exasperated senator roared. Impartial goddess voice sounded a bit relaxed. Considering the urgency of the situation, as well as the urgency of time, I believe that the current situation is suitable for the Federation Constitution Article 17, 21, and 37. After a bit of thinking, everyone understood what happened. Quite a few of them looked at an old man with white hair, but combed meticulously. The old man thought for a bit, then sighed. By combining Article 17, 21, and 37 of the Federation Constitution, there is indeed a chance for Impartial Goddess to bypass the current 37 restrictions on civilians and directly make a decision. He was the most authoritative reading on the Constitution. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief at the same time. This at least means that Impartial Goddess didn't violate any laws, nor did she do anything that goes against humanity's will. But very quickly, quite a few of them smiled bitterly, feeling helpless. First of all, the Federation Constitution represents the greatest benefit of the Federation, so it's practically unshakable. Even if it needs to be rewritten, the process to do so is extremely complicated, and now isn't the time. Secondly, impartial goddess is a machine that follows scientific logic to carry out orders. Once a decision is made, it will be carried out immediately. There's no turning back for this. Who could be blamed for such a thing? The president suddenly stood up, asking in a low voice, "Impartial goddess, what's the current situation?" Impartial goddess answered, "Everyone, please take a look." A screen appeared on the VIP podium. Currently, we've successfully rescued 59,812 people. The number of people rescued is still rising. The president didn't smile at all. He stared at the senators below, coldly speaking. If we had done this earlier, a lot of innocent people wouldn't have died, but have you thought about the following issues? Everyone has a mobile mech to use, then everyone can kill people. Kill anyone. A senator jumped up, shouting. In the current situation, I believe that the first thing people will do when they pick up their weapons is to protect themselves, the president answered without backing down. The senator retorted, "That's right, they will pick up their weapons to protect themselves, then what? Robbing food, robbing women, robbing houses, building forces, fighting against the government, fighting against the nobles. Can this country still be called a country after all this?" The president sighed and looked at him with a heavy heart. "Just because the people haven't done any evil, we deprive them of their hope of survival. Can we do that?" The senator snorted with an ugly expression, stood up, and slammed the door. By Shaw County, the once bustling city center has now become a ghost town, filled with man-eater fiends and man-killer fiends. In the dead silence, the sound of a communicator suddenly rang out. The man looked at the communicator and saw a familiar name. This name had brought him endless warmth and joy. It had accompanied him through many beautiful memories. Countless emotions flashed through his eyes and finally turned into a trace of undetectable pain. The man stared blankly at the communicator, then sighed and pressed the answer button. "Let's break up," the other person said. "Why?" He was stunned and asked. "This is no longer a peaceful era, I want to continue living," the girl said. "I can," he said hesitantly. "Can you?" The other person's voice seemed a bit emotional. "No, you can't. The only ones who can protect my life right now are the nobles. Could it be him? You've never liked him. No, you mean you want to. Yes, goodbye." The communicator hung up. Silence. After a while, the man took out his communicator and called again. But this time it was a different number. "Mom, how are things on your side?" he asked. The other side spoke for a long time. Hearing that, he sighed in relief and said, If that's the case, it's thanks to the mech arriving in time. I have to thank impartial goddess for saving you, nobles?" "That's impossible, it must be impartial goddess." "Ha, don't worry, Mom, I'm fine here, it's safe. But there's something very important I have to report to you." "Don't worry, it's a surprise. You might not be able to contact me for a long time, because..." The man tried his best to sound happy. "I've been hired by the Federation's secret department." "That's right, your son is definitely the best." "Benefits?" "Benefits are good, everything's good. I even have a house and a shuttle, but I can't easily contact the outside world. The Federation is like this, the situation is collapsing, so the higher-ups are very strict with us. I won't be able to call you anymore. If you miss me, just leave me a message, I'll call you back when I have time." "Girlfriend?" "I'll break up, I'll find a prettier one and bring her home for you to see." "Yeah, now that the Federation is facing a crisis, they're lacking people everywhere. I've already found a good job. The conditions are also good. Everything will be fine. I've sent you some money. Don't be too stingy. I get a lot of money every month. This amount isn't much. Don't be stingy. You don't need to save for me. If you save for me, I won't bring my girlfriend back." "Yeah, you need to use the money yourself, live a better life, that way I'll be able to work without worry." "Alright, Mom, I'll stop here, our higher-ups are here." Take care." The man turned off his holobrain, slowly calming down. "Everything he's worried about has been dealt with, that's good. There's no wind around, the sunlight is perfect. allowing him to see the scenery from afar. Out of habit, he kicked his left leg a bit, his movements smooth and natural. His left knee was once hit by a car, so it's not easy for him to even find a job. Unfortunately, the one who hit him was an aristocrat who doesn't have a single shred of compassion, otherwise he'd be able to get more compensation. Otherwise, his life wouldn't be so hard. Fortunately, his knee has also recovered. Perfectly recovered. He raised his hand, instinctively reaching for the frame of his glasses, only to find nothing. It was now that he realized his eyesight has also recovered, so he doesn't need that thing anymore. Of course, there are disadvantages as well. His originally clear eyes have been replaced by a bright red hue, all the desires in his body have disappeared, leaving only a single thought: kill. The man stood on top of the mountain of countless corpses, looking far away. On the other side of the city, there's also a large mountain. This mountain is similar to his mountain, but also a bit different. The same thing is, this mountain was also piled up with corpses, reaching as high as a 100-story building. But the difference is that this mountain seems to be alive, constantly spitting out a dark yellow mist. You want to fight me as an equal? Saying so, the man licked his lips with his tongue. Just like when you see an afternoon dessert, you can't help but feel hungry. All of a sudden, a pair of fearsome large bone spikes sprouted from his back. His blood-red eyes became crazed and cruel. No, I won't allow it. Every living being in this city belongs to me. The man roared, his body giving off a seemingly solid glow of blood. When he roared, the entire world became deathly still. It was as if all living beings were quietly trembling. Chapter 153. As Gu Qingshan turned off his holobrain and left the room, he ran into a familiar person in the hallway. Marshal Saint Zhang Zongyuan. Zhang Zongyuan patted him on the shoulder, saying, "Thanks to your timely reminder, Ing Hao managed to save his sister." "It's nothing, he's my partner," Gu Qingshan replied. Very well, I still have something to do, so I'll be leaving soon. Let's talk more next time," Zhang Zongyuan said. "Where are you going?" Gu Qingshan looked at his direction, a bit confused. Zhang Zongyuan smiled bitterly, answering, "Sea monster," saying so, he quickly left the Three Armies HQ. Gu Qingshan shook his head. There's nothing he can do about that. The ocean is so big, countless creatures have mutated, humans can't even go near it, let alone fight against it. As Gu Qingshan returned to his room, he didn't see Anna or Feng Hua anywhere. He immediately felt something was wrong. His hollow brain lit up. It was a text message. "I can't trouble you anymore, I'll be on my way, see you later." Gu Qingshan was shocked. He tried to contact the other party, but was rejected. He thought for a bit, then called out, "Impartial goddess, I'm here. Help me take a look at what happened in this room in the last half an hour." Got it. The screen turned on. Everything that happened before was replayed in front of Gu Qingshan. He sighed, feeling a bit scared. Seems like the Holy Empire's incident really happened early. It's a good thing I didn't let Anna go back. "Help me track Anna's whereabouts," Gu Qingshan said. "Anna, please don't do anything stupid." A moving dot immediately appeared on the screen. The direction of this point is heading towards the Fuxi Empire, not directly towards the Holy Empire. Calling for reinforcements? Not that stupid after all, Gu Qingshan muttered. His worried heart slowly calmed down. Anna's aunt is the Fuxi Empire's empress. In her previous life, she was forced to become the bride of the Holy Sex's Holy Son and suffered the most miserable torture in the world. But since the beginning of time, every single member of the Medici clan has never been a martyr, only true heroes who are willing to live for the sake of the clan's legacy and final victory. It was the same for Anna. It wasn't until the Holy Church had spread too far that the Fuxi Empire declared war on the Holy Church, that all the countries in the world joined the war, that the Holy Church had no choice but to compromise and retreat. At that time, Anna was rescued by the Fuxi Empire's empress. After that, she fought against the Holy Church for the rest of her life, wanting to recover the Olenka kingdom. Impartial goddess voice suddenly came. Because you're very concerned about this matter, I've recommended a piece of information. Would Your Excellency Gu Qing Shan need it? Gu Qing Shan was startled, but quickly said, yes. Saint Hill of the Holy Church's Inquisition crossed the border of the Freedom Federation 3 minutes and 15 seconds ago with 20 subordinates. They are heading in the direction of the capital. Gu Qing Shan narrowed her eyes. Hill? That famous madman? Pull up Saint Hill's file. Let me take a look. Her Excellency Gu Qing Shan has the authority to read the file. Pulling it up, Hill's detailed file was displayed on the holobrain. What's your evaluation of him? He asked. Impartial goddess answered. Inhumane, very accurate, Gu Qing Shan replied. This person is too dangerous. Even Anna isn't his match. If he enters the Federation, or goes to the Fuxi Empire, both of them will be troublesome. Gu Qing Shan squinted her eyes, thought for a while, then said, I'll have to go meet him. The highest leader should be taking refuge here, not personally facing a criminal with ill intentions, impartial goddess answered. Gu Qing Shan smiled bitterly and stood up, saying, He's here to find me, I can't avoid him, the forest. Hill ordered his followers to rest. He sat alone at the side, quietly reading a book. This was a medical anatomy book. The author had a lot of experience in the field of anatomy, so the depth of knowledge he had was enough to make Hill praise him. He looked up, thinking about this mission from start to finish. The cowardly scientist is easy to deal with. I just need to knock him out and take him away. The key is Anna. This little girl has a deep hatred for the Holy Church, not to mention she's strong, so dealing with her will be troublesome. Unfortunately, I can't kill her, nor can I use punishment. He regretfully looked at his suitcase. Inside, there were a lot of intricate tools, all of which he spent a lot of time and effort to create, both creative and artistic. If only I could torture her as much as I want. Forget it, that way the Holy Son won't be happy, the Pope won't be happy either. Hill sighed, feeling a deep sense of regret. Sir Hill, breakfast is ready, one of the followers respectfully reported. Ah. Hill looked over. A clean white carpet was laid out on the grass. Exquisite silverware was arranged neatly, the delicious food was still steaming. The followers all respectfully lowered their heads, waiting for his arrival. Not bad. Hill was pleased. The followers lowered their heads even more. No one wanted to remember the last time they went out for a mission. At the time, a single strand of hair appeared in the food. Hill picked out the strands of hair, then set the 2 disciples in charge of cooking on fire, and offered them to the great god. That scene was unforgettable. Hill slowly walked over. Everyone stood there, only after Hill sat down did they dare to move. Sir Hill, there's a small town up ahead. Do you want us to prepare some materials for you? There's no need to rush, come and eat, I'll go with you after you're done. Hill was in a good mood, so he didn't mind showing his friendly side. The followers were flattered and sat down, silently swearing to themselves that when they look for materials, they'll definitely keep their eyes open. Just being a virgin isn't enough, they also need to be slim and beautiful. Last time, when a follower kidnapped a normal-looking girl, Sir Hill didn't say anything and only used that follower as a material. Sir Hill is an expert in studying organs and bones. He has hundreds of ways to keep people at the moment of death, but unable to take their last breath. They can't live, they can't die. Sir Hill always said that this is art, the art of the Holy Inquisition. Hill picked up his utensils and was about to enjoy his food. He looked at the plate of medium-rare steak that still had some blood in it and thought about how to prepare today's materials. And then the flash of light came. A blinding light shot down from the sky and accurately landed in the middle of everyone. The light exploded after 0.1 seconds. In an instant, the shock wave spread, destroying everyone except Hill's skin, muscles, organs, and bones. Everyone was sent flying in all directions, no longer breathing in the air. Hill's body erupted with a layer of holy light, protecting him as he was pushed back by the shock wave. He quickly rolled away and only stopped when he was quite a distance away. Who is it? Show yourself! Hill shouted angrily. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.